Chapter 971, Heart of a Sovereign. Chapter 971, Heart of a Sovereign. Proofreader. Papatonks. Zhuofan's face was in a constant frown. Heaven-sealing CAO. Does that mean he is the only one in the whole wide world that can heal young Sanzi? Yes, but the problem is I have no idea where he is. Kuanpeng sighed. Zhuofan lit up and took out a gourd, looking nervous. Senior, you just said that only heaven-sealing CAO can save young Sanzi, but on my way back I stumbled upon this mortal item, North Sea Gel, that proved to be of great help. Does Senior know of it? North Seal Gel? First time hearing of it. Kuanpeng took the gourd and smelled it. Young Sanzi's wound, or more plainly spoke, the deadly war between us and Heavenly Sovereign, can never be healed by anything, no matter how special, from the mortal domain, eh? Kuanpeng gasped. This smell. What is it, Senior? Of course. Kuanpeng grinned and shook his head, then he handed the gourd back with a jeer. Kid, what did you say its name was? Where does it come from? Completely clueless, Zhuofan looked at the gourd and muttered, Senior, on my way back I met someone who used this to save young Sanzi's life, calling it North Sea Gel. I heard it's very valuable. I had to pay 20 million sacred stones for just this tiny bit, yet still came up at a huge bargain for me. Kuanpeng scoffed and gave him a toying gaze. What, Senior, what's the problem? Zhuofan asked curiously, pointing at the gourd with a smug grin. Kuanpeng shook his head. You humans hail everything that's remotely rare as valuable. Zhuofan was still not getting where he was going, but the man continued, Kid, the old guy's 9 Serenities secret records has plenty of super secret and rare medicines, right? Was this among them then? No. Zhuofan gave an awkward shake of his head. Maybe since this is of the mortal domain, 9 Serenities Sovereign has no way of knowing. Bool. Kuanpeng cussed him on the spot. There was no mortal domain in the distant past. 9 Serenities most definitely knew what this thing is, but found it unworthy to be noted down. Then this is heaven-sealing CAO's garbage. Kuanpeng cocked an eyebrow as he cackled. Zhuofan froze, then stammered, You mean this thing? You get it now? The waste of a sacred beast looks like an otherworldly treasure to you common folk, but to a sovereign, it's junk, trash, shit. Even if it were you, would you actually go and ask some random expert stool sample for purely academic reasons? Ha ha ha. Kuanpeng was laughing it up. Only mortals like you would think this is precious. 9 Serenities knew its use but still didn't note it down, just so he wouldn't become the butt of everyone's joke. Zhuofan's face was twitching in all the weird ways. The dirty truth finally dumped on his clueless mind. Of course it helped heal young Sanzi's wound, since it came from the heaven-sealing CAO. Even if it came from the other end, it still has great power. Right you are, and also, Kuanpeng's eyes shone with a vague light. Zhuofan picked up on his thought instantly. The heaven-sealing CAO is in the Northern Lands Sea. I'll take young Sanzi there right now. Zhuofan grabbed young Sanzi to leave. Wait. Kuanpeng cut his enthusiasm short, earning a curious expression from him. Kuanpeng took a deep breath. Northern Lands is worlds apart from here, and not to mention it'll take even more time searching for the old Coots track in the North Sea. Time is of the essence here, as young Sanzi's life is at stake. He is fading as we speak, each passing day becoming more dangerous for him. Senior means who tilde? Kuanpeng's palm sported an azure flame, shooting both of his hands at young Sanzi and letting the fire pass by his acupoints. While placing the palm on young Sanzi's forehead, the azure flame flared and seeped into the child's body through the acupoints, forming a faint azure glow around young Sanzi to keep him safe. Easing a long breath, Kuanpeng took back his hand. I'm not at the old Coots ceiling level, but this little is nothing. Fire is the source of life, so I used the chaos flame to make a heaven seal and keep young Sanzi's spirit in his body. It's not enough to give the chilling shield time to recover, but it won't get worse at least. Now you need to visit the old dragon too, so he'd use the decimating golden flame and keep his energy from leaking as well. This should buy enough time for you to find the CAO and save him. Senior can't just seal it completely. No, my azure soul protects the soul, while the dragon's refines the flesh. Against such a problem as 2 clashing energies, we can only do what we can. I kept his soul intact while the dragon can keep his body from deteriorating. That's all any of us can do. Kuanping explained. Zhuofan nodded and hugged young Sanzi, but Kuanping stopped him yet again. He had a cheeky grin. Kid, the child's life won't get worse for now, so there's no need to be frantic. It's been 2 years now since you last visited my all-beast mountain range, and I would like to understand some things. Have you made any progress? I sealed 3 of the 8 whirlwind tunnels. Zhuofan spoke plainly. Kuanping nodded. That's quite fast, but that's not the issue here. Finding them and setting a drawing array is the easy part, while getting the recoiling array the main issue. Alone, as you are, it's going to take eons to finish. This is work that involves all of the lands. Do you have any plans? Don't worry, I found myself a partner on the way back. With their clan's connections, it shouldn't take too long. Zhuofan's eyes shone, giving a full account of the Serene Shores trading situation. Kuanping started, then laughed. In just 3 days, you had them killed and still got them to give their lives for you. Kid, that's one good deal right there. Senior Kuanping, you mean you don't see it? It's not I who ruined them, but themselves. I just sped up the process. Sighing at the heavens, he flatly stated, in this world, there's always a way to survive, just that you're the one digging your own grave through your actions. Kuanping chuckled and nodded. Zhuofan, you've grown these 2 years, getting closer to the attitude of a sovereign. Sovereign? Yes. Kuanping unraveled his doubtful gaze. People think the sovereign stage is the embodiment of power. Hidden from their view is, however, the heart of a sovereign. It means being committed to the world around you, discovering its nature and inner workings by taking the path less traveled and tempering your heart and mind, to grasp past and future, the very world itself, in the palm of your hand. As you are, despite the lack of power, you made headways in demeanor, following the way the world works. A true man would see the danger he is under and avoid it, but everyone else would find it hard to even distinguish it, unable to dodge calamity. You might not have noticed, but you used to think of the bigger picture, walking towards your fate, half with schemes and half with heaven. Now that you perceive the nature of the world and can grasp its opportunities, just how the Serene Shores trading was walking to a doom of their own making, you merely picked the best timing for you to have them escape it while also casually getting them to work for you. You didn't really do anything but have grasped the trend of the world. Going with the flow is the sovereign stage. Zhuofan's brow shook in thought. I never thought about it before, just finding it that by throwing the demon spirit stones at the Serene Shores trading will cause a huge problem, since their demise was just a matter of time. As for the second young master, he'll work with me in the end and the company will be mine. All I have to do is be patient. Heart of a sovereign, to see the future and know fate. You saw their end, so you followed the world's trend, speeding up the process. Every sovereign is special, having shed the mortal coil, while you have done it in mind. Kuanping smiled. When I had asked you to find heavenly sovereigns' remnants, I believed you would because I had a feeling this would be your future. Ha ha ha, I made the right choice. With you helping us, it's practically over and done with. Now take young Sanzi and go. I'll have 3-headed crow go along until you find CAO. Isn't he an important helper? You'd let me have him? Zhuofan was stunned. Kuanping showed a vague smile. Yep, he is, but you need his help more than I do. Also, when you meet the old coot, you might even think the helper hasn't much use, ha ha ha. Chapter 972, The 9-Sword Kings Converge. Chapter 972, The 9-Sword Kings Converge. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom tilde. In the deepest place of Sword Star Empire's imperial capital, on the tallest mountain stood a lofty palace. However, the lavish design was marred by the constant thunderstorm above and the incessant thick lightning strikes hammering the area. Each strike teeming with the power to destroy everything, but there would be no destruction as the palace made it so any strike that landed close or on it would be completely absorbed, with not a single blade of grass even singed. Yet from the flowers to the trees, they all had a distinct crackling sound coming from them, brimming with abundant electric charge at the tallest point of the palace, where lightning surrounded it constantly. 3 golden and sharp words drew attention: Thunder Pavilion. Invincible Sword just got out of seclusion and asked for the 9 Sword Kings, but what does he do next? He comes to Thunder Pavilion to polish his sword skills. What the hell is he thinking? Outside the pavilion, the teams of guards stood at perfect attention, all of them peak Genesis experts. The most impressive was their numbers, over 100. Shangguan Feiyun was pacing just outside the pavilion, finding it an utter waste of time and complained because of it. I'd have left by now if the old man didn't have something important. I don't have the leisure like these guards to come over from afar just to stand stiff. Dan Qingshun beside him chuckled. Brother Feiyun, mind your words. Someone might just go tell on you. Then you'll have Sword Patriarch coming at you for a spar. Who are you going to blame then? Ha ha ha. So what? I already lost, haven't I? Shangguan Feiyun's face twitched and grumbled, but it was clear the words did get to him. Dan Qingshun chuckled. He then froze, his nose wiggling from the intoxicating scent as he laughed. A mild 3,200 years aged vintage Harmony Hallow. That's one good wine. Ha ha ha. I knew only Brother Dan among the Sword Kings knows me best. You managed to sense it from this far? Whoosh tilde. An aged man with a white beard and a heavily receding hairline popped up in front of them, holding a wine bottle letting out a conspicuous smell. Dan Qingshun smiled. Wine Sword Immortal, it's been ages. Where have you run off to for some fine wine? Mind giving me a bottle? Hey, how could I ever forget about my dear friend, Brother Dan? But this time, I didn't bring one for you. Why, hogging it all up? Dan Qingshun poked fun. Wine Sword Immortal waved dismissively. Brother Dan, I'm not being rude here on purpose. Such a great wine isn't enough for myself, so how could I share any with you? Humph, you say that every time. To you, I bet not even all the wine in the world would be enough. Shangguan Feiyun mocked. Dan Qingshun smiled uncaringly. But Wine Sword Immortal was looking nervous as he said, Shangguan Feiyun, don't poison the well. I'm a genuine drunkard that loves to hit the bottle, but my dear friendship with Brother Dan is so strong. If I had the whole world's wine, even a bottle, I would not necessarily not share. Shangguan Feiyun rolled his eyes. This drunkard is so stingy, giving only a taste even if he has barrels of it. It was obvious you'd get nothing from this guy. Since all good wines came in short supply, there was no way he'd ever share anything. Dan Qingshun chuckled. Old geezer, I know you're a drunkard, but regardless of giving or not, the least you can do is show me some respect in front of everyone. Just a bottle? Do I matter so little to you? No, that's not it, Brother Dan. I feared you'd take it seriously and really ask for some from me. The Wine Sword Immortal always had his nose in a bottle, or barrel. But of the 9 Sword Kings, he was the plainest and honest of them all, always saying his piece. At the two's teasing, he grew nervous. I'll be honest with you. This is the only bottle I have of Harmony Hallow and also the most ardent. I had to go through so much to ardent Harmony Hallow, like from southern lands. Dan Qingshun shouted, You went to Murong Lai for wine? No wonder it has such a pungent smell. The southern lands have the hottest climate and would ferment the spiciest wines. Murong clans is among the best, but as a Sword King, if Bailey Jingwei finds out you went to the enemy for some wine, you're through. Shangguan Feiyun butted in with his mock threat. Wine Sword Immortal signaled for him to be silent with a tense look. Keep it down. That slob has his eyes on me, and if he finds out anything, he'll lock me up in the same spot. Good brothers keep secrets. Don't throw me to the wolves. Give half and take half. The other two spoke in unison while reaching for the wine. Wine Sword Immortal winced, looking at the bottle in his hand with pain. Can't you ask for anything else? This is my only bottle. You're being cruel wanting half. We're just that mean, hey. The two wiggled their eyebrows as they taunted, looking like he was the victim here. Wine Sword Immortal fondled the bottle with utter helplessness. But then the sound of strings echoed out, followed by a voice sounding even more helpless. Sword Kings, please don't pick on the kind and elderly. He risked his life in the southern lands. Why must we Sword Kings play one another despite being outsiders? How petty. They all started and looked over at the corner to an eminent man with a calm demeanor as he played the zither while giving them a mocking grin. Zither Sword King Liu Mubai, you came as well? Wine Sword Immortal lit up in joy as he bounced over with a laughter. You're a nice guy, saving me from those two trying to blackmail me. What I hate the most is others using another's plight for their own selfish gain. Liu Mubai smiled and played the zither. Wine Sword Immortal, you call that blackmail? It's just a joke. Just like what I did just now with them. Ha ha ha. Really? Shangguan Feiyun cocked a mocking eyebrow. The 9 Sword Kings come from different Rs, but Prime Minister Bailey treat us all the same. The fact that you spoke of us being outsiders is your attempt at sowing discord? The zither rang an odd note in his hand as Liu Mubai stopped, looking at him with a vague glint. That wasn't the idea, I'm only stating facts. Of the 9 Sword Kings, 5 are Bailey clans, leaving us the only 4 by ourselves. Don't tell me you believe that if a bit operation is in play, those 5 won't try to steal our share of the reward or downplay our merits. Ha ha ha, Prime Minister cares about all of us, but our levels are different among each other. They are a united force while we're alone. I love the zither, sword immortal the wine, old Dan painting, but what about Brother Feiyun? Ha ha ha. Brow furrowed, they all looked grave. Liu Mubai spoke what they all knew already. Bailey's people are against any outsiders. They were 4 Sword Kings that had been recruited, thus their gains differed. This made it 5 against each one of them. When the time came and they were at odds, they would be in serious danger, all because they had no trust among each other. The 4 look at each other, their mind already working on a plan. The Sword King, are you trying to get the other 3 Sword Kings set up against the Bailey clan? Rumble. A thunderous voice followed the appearance of a fierce and hulking man. His eyes flashed like lightning, his power shaking the air around him. Squinting, Liu Mubai smiled. Thunder Sword King Bailey Yulei, is it that you disapprove of my words? There's no point to begin with. Bailey Yulei jeered, there's only our clan the best in the world. It is us who have the final say, and we who gave you your titles, just so that you protect our home. Put bluntly, you're nothing but better guards. Even if there are conflicts of interests with our clan, you still have to step aside, isn't that right? All the other faces tensed and darkened. Wine Sword Immortal, who never cared about mortal affairs, had had enough. So you're saying if a good wine caught my eye and someone from Bailey wants it as well, who is it that gets it? Whoever rules. Bailey Yulei thundered. Wine Sword Immortal was disgruntled. Wine is my life. Then please have it removed, Wine Sword Immortal. What did you say? Bam. A powerful surge exploded as Wine Sword Immortal roared, standing against Bailey Yulei's icy smile. Liu Muba rooted for Wine Sword Immortal. Suddenly, 2 Sword Kings' aura flared, pushing Bailey Yulei back, but then 4 other figures descended. The 9 Sword Kings gathered before the Thunder Pavilion. Chapter 973, The Strongest Clan. Chapter 973, The Strongest Clan. Proofreader, Papatonks. Rumble Tilda. With the impression of the sky falling on their heads, 5 Sword Kings' combined auras reached almost godlike level in raw power, making Wine Sword Immortal groan and forced back 3 steps. Dan Shin released his own aura to help Wine Sword Immortal. They were outsiders to the Swordstar Empire, strangers, and had to work hard to gain its trust. If they did not stand together, there would be nothing left of them to stand over. Bam. With the other 2 at the side joining the first 2, it became 4 on 5, turning into a stalemate. Both sides gave their all with neither budging an inch, yet the raw power they released was so great it affected the Thunder Pavilion, shaking the whole mountain. It was on. The guards were a shaking mess, paling and having lost their previous stone-cold calm. They were all peak Genesis stage experts here, but one thing was certain, the 9 Sword Kings were a cut way above the masses. All they could do as these 9 powerhouses duked it out was to stand aside, feeling how weak they were by comparison. Neither side gave, with all the faces frozen in a grim expression. The 100 guards witnessing this were fearing for their lives. The mountain just kept on shaking as the lightning thundered across the sky, giving the feeling the mountain was going to crumble. And so, this went on for the better part of the next hour, with shaking and more shaking. While word was the 9 Sword Kings were equal, the 4 outsiders were short of one in this fight, showing signs of weakness after engaging in this pissing contest for so long. The Bailey clan's 5 Sword Kings had gotten the advantage and were pressing down on the other 4. The 4 outsiders were grave when a woman giggled, "You're only 4 yet still dare to challenge the 5 of us? Now it's too late to back out. Bailey you sure are smug for having just one more. Have some dignity and fight one-on-one with me if you dare." Wine Sword Immortal challenged. The graceful figure stuck out her tongue as she jeered, "Stinky old coot, this lady here doesn't feel like wasting time with you." "Humph, lady. Shouldn't that be hag?" Shangguan Funyun's eyes shone as he taunted. Bailey clan's Yu generation is of the same age with Patriarch Bailey Yutian, around 10,000 years old, I reckon. Yet you call yourself a lady? Ha ha ha, a biddy or a hag is more accurate. And yet still so feisty. No man will ever want a shrew. Bailey Yu squinted and gave a banshee of a screech. Who's spouting such nonsense that all you are of the same generation? The patriarch bestowed upon the Bailey clan members who reached the Sword King rank with this character, to show our power is that of heaven. Did you know that? Smiley face, the character or you has many different meanings, to resist, imperial, manage, govern, royal. With bloodthirst flashing in her eyes, Bailey Yu's hands glinted coldly as she sent a rumbling silver sword energy for Shangguan Feiyun with her finger. You think I'm scared of you, wench? Shangguan Feiyun scoffed and drew 2 fingers as he slashed, unleashing the soaring sword art at her boom. The loud explosion shook the mountain even more, sending rocks into its streams, with its aura becoming strained to the point of breaking. The guards panicked, while the other Sword Kings frowned. So far they kept the confrontation friendly, to a mere display of power, but now someone resorted to violence. With 9 Sword Kings' power, a clash would lead to total devastation. On top of that, they might both die from it. Whichever the outcome, it was bad no matter how one sliced it. This was why both the Patriarch and the Prime Minister forbade any fighting among them, short of being severely punished. Whoosh tilde. The second energy wave shot at Shangguan Feiyun as Bailey Yu spat. Curse you, Shangguan Feiyun, I'm going to skin you alive. Bring it on. Shangguan Feiyun met her challenge with his own taunt, and the soaring sword art roar reverberated throughout the skies before the 2 sword energies ever had a chance to unleash further needless devastation upon the world. Enough. Are you going to fight in front of the Thunder Pavilion, in front of Patriarch? Everyone flinched and found 2 men rushing over and making them stop as they bowed. Greetings, Your Majesty. Greetings, Prime Minister. Next to the young Bailey Jingwei stood a middle-aged man with sharp brows and tall stature. His eyes showed wisdom, yet hid the cold glint only the monarch of the Swordstar Empire could have. Right behind him were 10 youths, with the most handsome guy taking the lead, looking to only be in his 20s. And yet his youthful look belied the power he wielded, that of a Genesis stage expert. The other 9 were 5th layer Soul Harmony stage experts as well. Young and strong Shangguan Feiyun's heart sank, looking at his friends, and his face fell as well. The Bailey clan is filled with talents. They aren't called the strongest clan for nothing. The leader of the youths was none other than the Crown Prince, capable in both the pen and the sword. Now that he was already in the Genesis stage, his future was set as the next Sword King. As for the other 9, they were outstanding as well, all having a good chance of becoming a Sword King. Now the 9 Sword Kings had 5 from the Bailey clan, but by the look of things, there would be more. The power of this mighty clan was on a steady climb, bound to make these foreign Sword Kings' future even more miserable. There was a very likely possibility, and not at all welcomed, that they would be even removed from such ranks. Not like they could do anything to change it. The Bailey clan was just that strong, and not from coincidences or happenstance, but through survival of the fittest had they created this empire. Invincible Sword established the clan's dominance, putting in place his autocracy, with every generation carefully picked and groomed to reach higher. As for the progeny that failed to make the cut, Bailey Yutian sent them to the border and never to step foot in the imperial capital again. Not all of the imperial family held power. Had the crown prince failed to meet his expectations, he would now be reduced to a garbage position like a city lord. There was no surprise the right to inherit did not exist in this clan. Failing to thrive meant turning into a beggar. On the off chance a good seed bore fruit among those sent at the border towns, they would be recalled to the imperial capital to be groomed. On very rare occasions, they might even become emperors. At least that was what Invincible Sword said. The whole empire revolved around this one man, the Patriarch, making his word law. This was why birthright didn't mean instant power and the highest seat in the empire. That was because the Bailey clan was filled with struggles if one ever wanted to grasp anything. A degenerate like Bailey Jingyu was an exception, while Bailey Jingwei and Bailey Jingsha, men of little power but great wisdom, had their station judged through their incredible talent. As a prime minister and as an emperor, it was all thanks to the Patriarch that they got it, or they would have become nobodies. Thus, ever since these 2 came to power, the empire flourished. This system was unimaginable elsewhere, because it was bound to lead to chaos. As to why it worked here, that was because there was no one out there in the world that could top Bailey Yutian and challenge his words. Bailey Jingwei spoke coldly. Explain to me what's happening right now, or I'll have to report this to the Patriarch. Prime Minister, he insulted me. Bailey Yu stabbed her finger at Shangguan Feiyun. The accused man scoffed. Prime Minister, you always say the 9 Sword Kings do not take sides, but these 5 from the Bailey clan have treated us outsiders as nothing. Is this true? Bailey Jingwei turned to the 5 and spoke, Sword Kings. It was the patriarch himself who invited these 4 to be Sword Kings, to serve the Empire. My reach is limited and I do not have the power to govern matters between Sword Kings, but we are now meeting the patriarch, and what do you think he will say when he hears about my report on this? The 5 Sword Kings shuddered at once. Bailey Yu cupped her hands in fright. Prime Minister, I've been too rude and ask Prime Minister not to. Not what? A wizened voice rumbled into everyone's ears like thunder and made everyone shake all over. The patriarch of the Sword Star Empire, the strongest in the 5 lands, invincible sword Bailey Yutian had arrived. Chapter 974, Invincible Sword. Chapter 974, Invincible Sword. Proofreader, Papatonks. Along with the surge of power that shook the ground and the air around them, what stood in front of them was a stout old man with a white beard, eyes of amber, hair white as snow, wrinkles so deep as if carved, yet what unnerved everyone, even the likes of the 9 Sword Kings, was the piercing stare and the flickering purple lightning within. They felt their hearts quivering from the sharp glare, making them sweat. Bam! In a flash of purple lightning, a long sword appeared, its edge cold and sharp, its aura deadly like that of a grim reaper. Central Area's divine weapon, Sundering Sword. Everyone's hearts shuddered at its appearance, then they gave the old man a deep bow. Greetings, Patriarch. We congratulate Patriarch on coming out of seclusion. Now I know what exactly happened here from within the Thunder Pavilion. I won't be saying anything about it, but I'd prefer this not to happen ever again. Am I clear? Bailey Yutian spoke with a cold face, his eyes flat as if nothing mattered to him at all, yet these few words carried with it a heavy weight, like a decree of a god that none could impeach. Follow it they shall, or they might as well sign their death warrant. The 9 Sword Kings bowed again. Bailey Yulei even lowered his head more as sweat trickled down his brow. Shangguan Feiyun snickered at their plight, while Zither Sword King's eyes shone and grinned. Bailey Yutian's icy tone came again. This goes for the foreign Sword Kings as well, not just the 2 of them. Watch yourselves, before you touch upon each other's sensibilities, especially. Bailey Yutian glanced sideways, his piercing and icy stare shooting straight for Liu Mubai. Shuddering, the man sweated buckets as he and the other 3 outsiders bowed in respect. We shall respect Patriarch's wishy. As long as you understand. Bailey Yutian squinted as he passed judgment on all and everything. He then turned to Bailey Jingwei, Emperor, Prime Minister, you're late. Why? Bailey Jingsha gave a curt bow and reported, Patriarch, these days Prime Minister has seized Serene Shore's trading and removed unwelcomed elements. Today they have been receiving the highest punishment as an example for everyone. As such, Prime Minister and I have gone with the princes and nobles to supervise the execution. We ask your forgiveness, Patriarch. Highest punishment. Liu Mubai shook at the words, his fists clenching. Highest punishment. Bailey Yutian pondered. Serene Shore's trading has established itself for thousands of years in the Empire, contributing greatly to our nation's prosperity. I still recall 2,000 years ago how the 4 lands cut us off from all the spirit mines, and only Serene Shore's trading managed to open them again. Just what heinous crime have they committed to warrant ruination, and even use the highest punishment? Bailey Jingwei bowed. Patriarch, I had something to do with this. Bailey Jingwei began to explain the demon spirit stone debacle. Bailey Yutian pondered, then mocked, only a few dozen greedy nobles died, and Serene Shore's trading hardly is to blame for this. The highest punishment is a bit excessive here. But Jingwei, you always have a reason for your actions, so I can only assume it has other meanings. Patriarch has such insight. It is indeed so. Bailey Jingwei gave off a confident smile as he bowed. Patriarch, I believe that our empire's unification plan can now begin. We can now wage war with the other 4 lands. When we rule the world, Serene Shore's trading would no longer be opening channels with the rest of the areas, but fester our empire like termites that the enemy might exploit. Collapse could come from the slightest weakness, let alone such a glaring one. That's why I used this chance to have the company removed, for the future of the empire and its complete control over every mountain and river. Brows furrowed and hearts shook. They couldn't believe Bailey Jingwei was so impatient to fight the other lands so soon. The 9 Sword Kings were barely established and quite free. Now they were to strike at every land around. What was more, Was he that confident that this was going to happen? Bailey Yutian stared for long before speaking. You're certain? Absolutely. Our previous defeat against the Four Lands was due to a lack of men, weakness. When one land fell, the other three jumped in, leaving our backs bare and pushing us into being defensive. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone. Only this time, we have the 9 Sword Kings, and with Patriarch coming out of seclusion, even with having 4 fronts, our great armies will crush them before they can join together. I believe it is the Sword Star Empire's greatest opportunity. Letting this drag on for longer will make the lands find counters for our Sword Kings and will make things worse. Bailey Jingwei, you sure don't go in half-cocked. The 9 Sword Kings barely took shape and you already can't wait to wage war. Talk about ruthless. Everyone thought the same thing in their minds. Bailey Yutian paused and said to the other, You're the Emperor, do you agree with your Prime Minister's decision? Patriarch, Jingwei has always done things boldly and with wisdom, something I lack. All my seat can do is curb his eagerness and prevent him from making mistakes. Bailey Jingsha smiled with a bow, but after a 3-day-long debate, he convinced me. While the plan feels rushed, it's without a doubt rushed to the lands as well, not just to us, and will prove to be effective. Thus I gave my approval of this plan. The Empire shall send its troops immediately and strike like lightning. Bailey Yutian stared at the two and nodded. Since you're both for this, then I have nothing to say against it. That's what we'll do. The two gave a deep bow and a smug smile. The 9 Sword Kings were amazed inside, but not because of the two's ingenious plan, but the Patriarch's ability to use talent in this type of empire. With the Patriarch always watching over, the Emperor's power was tied down, so there was no need for heavy tactics. The key was tolerance and having insight, more so when in other empires, the Prime Minister was in charge of affairs far more than the Emperor. This made the seat of Prime Minister needing a true governing talent, and only the likes of Bailey Jingwei could fill it. As all positions of power, they came with such temptation that would make the Prime Minister be rash and let it get to his head in his decision. For this reason, the Emperor's role was not to lead a nation but to curb the Prime Minister's zeal. This meant there was no godly genius of a requirement for it, since it would only clash with the first in trying to come on top and lead to grave consequences. What this seat needed was a plain individual that eased the Prime Minister's talent. It did not refer to one's humble abilities per se, but moderation above all else. That was who Bailey Jingsha was, the bucket of cold water for when Bailey Jingwei's talent flared too much and brought him down to earth. This led to the Emperor of the Sword Star Empire hardly ever passing any judgment on matters, always in the middle of things. In fact, he was more of a prop, there in the background, as he handled things to work smoothly. He didn't get involved in policies, but when the situation demanded, he was there to answer the call and avert any foreseeable calamity. Thus, these two, one impetuous and another reserved, complemented each other in bringing out the perfect solution. Since all their power stemmed from the authority the Patriarch invested in them, they had no clashes, but actually worked hand in hand for a change. This was nigh impossible to take shape in any other nation, not with the Emperor and Prime Minister always throwing jabs at each other in order to wield more power, sometimes deadly. The Prime Minister limited the Emperor's authority yet needed his power at the same time. The Emperor, on the other hand, wanted to kill the Prime Minister yet couldn't exactly do without one either. Such was their paradox. With both of them going forward with such a plan, Bailey Yutian found no reason to dwell on it, immediately approving it. The Sword Star Empire has been going easy on the Four Lands so far, but the sound of charging cavalry and marching soldiers, along with the cold edges of its 9 Sword Kings, shall soon fill the land. They all, however, were unaware of one tiny element, a frozen corpse that suddenly stirred. Second young master, let's go. In the public square of the imperial capital, an old man in black pulled along a youth with a sigh. Watching the ashes of the people who once stood in the middle of the square, the warmth still fresh on his skin, the youth balled his fists and vanished among the crowd. His vitriol-filled words only reached the elder's ears. Elder Ming, I swear we will rise again, as I toll the bell for the Sword Star Empire's doom. Chapter 975, North Sea Battlefield. Chapter 975, North Sea Battlefield. Proofreader, Papatonks. Sword King Feiyun, a bird told me you have the soaring sword. Where is it now? With the mobilizing plant established, Bailey Yutian went on to more important things and of great personal interest. Shangguan Feiyun flinched and Bailey Jingwei stepped in to cover for him. Patriarch, please be calm. We had the divine sword, but in a sudden turn of events, the Shangguan clan stole it. What? Bailey Yutian glared in fury. You mean to tell me that soaring sword is back in eastern lands? Humph, are my empire's lands so weak that they can't even get a grip on the things it has? Shangguan Feiyun bowed at once, soaked with sweat. Sword Patriarch, I am at fault for failing to protect the sword. Humph, you expect to protect my empire when you can't even get a grip on the divine weapon in your hands? Why are you even a sword king? Or is it something else? Tell me, Sword King Feiyun, do you still feel some longing for the eastern lands and you simply gave it up? Shut up. Bailey Jingwei immediately snapped back at Bailey Yulei's insidious accusation. Patriarch, I was there as well. Sword King Feiyun gave his all, his loyalty is beyond reproach. It was the enemy that outsmarted him and me, managing to steal the sword. Bailey Yutian gave him a long look, a devious enemy. You're saying you lost in a battle of minds? Bailey Jingwei shuddered on the inside as he felt utter shame to admit his biggest defeat yet. It was a severe blow to the man's pride in his flawless intellect. Prime Minister Bailey's wisdom has no equal. It must be someone from the inside working with the enemy. And it's plain to see that this spy has a tie with eastern lands. Hey. With Bailey Jingwei hesitating so much, Bailey Yuyu took the moment to jeer at Shangguan Feiyun's plight and kick him while down. Bailey Jingwei gnashed his teeth and bowed as he came clean. Patriarch, it has nothing to do with Sword King Feiyun. It's all my fault for losing the divine sword from his ploy. I take full responsibility for my actions. Sword King Feiyun has only followed my advice the entire time. He never failed his duty. Jingwei, you're a cunning man who has his sights on the end goal. I believe you. Bailey Yutian nodded, but then his visage darkened as bloodthirst shone in his eyes. But you all know that I only care about Dao and my pursuit of it. The only reason I formed this empire is to make it easier for me to get closer. And where do I find it? In the divine swords. I've completed my inspection of the central area's sundering sword and it won't bring me any new insight. For this reason I am in need to find the other four lands' divine swords and understand their design, so that I may one day break the heavens and reach higher. I went as far as waging war with them, all for the swords. Central area wouldn't care about them as long as they sent them over. But they refused me and fought me. Now that I came out and heard that the Sword King Feiyun has brought with him the soaring sword to the central area, I couldn't be happier. But in only a few days you lost it as well? Are you trying to toy with my feelings? Bailey Jingwei and Shangguan Feiyun gave a frightened bow as they declared, Never. I know you wouldn't, but maybe you didn't care enough. Glaring at them, Bailey Yutian's only interest on this wide green earth were those divine swords. The only reason the strongest man in the world did not immediately use violence to curb his rage on these disappointing men was because they were too important. Understanding his anger, Bailey Jingwei shook like a leaf. Dan Qingshan stepped in and bowed as he took their side. Sword Patriarch, Prime Minister has fallen to the enemy's cunning ploy and lost the divine sword, but he has been vanquished, no longer plaguing our empire. What does it matter? The sword's still taken. Bailey Yutian rumbled. Bailey Jingwei scrunched up his nerve to risk it, saying, Patriarch, I've been useless and the thief escaped. I did not succeed in bringing him to justice. What? Shangguan Feiyun's shock echoed around. Before even Bailey Yutian got to say anything, Prime Minister, didn't Brother Dan end the kid? Why are you saying he escaped? Bailey Jingwei spoke with great pain to his pride. I thought so as well. But the one who sold the demon spirit stones to the Serene Shores trading was a man with a child on his back, matching his description. Furthermore, Murong Shui saw him as well and confirmed how he announced himself as Jiu Yifan. That's not possible. Shangguan Feiyun gasped in disbelief. How can a dead guy reappear in the central area and in just 3 days cause a mess of the imperial capital by killing almost half of its officials? Is it some vengeful ghost? Bailey Jingwei sighed. If only it were that. I fear he pulled a great escape from right under my eyes and enacted an even crueler ploy. He's too shrewd, my first time encountering such a vile and calculating mind. Bailey Jingwei looked filled with regret. Bailey Yutian watched them talk and sighed. In other words, you don't even know if he's dead and that he disappeared from under you after having his fun with you. Yes, Patriarch. Bailey Jingwei sighed and lowered his head. Ever since he found out Zhuofan was still drawing breath, he felt crushed, his confidence gone. He felt humiliated how the enemy just waltzed around and did his thing to ruin the place under his governance. Bailey Yutian nodded and spoke. Jingwei, I have noticed your talent in deeper thinking, the best in your field, at the top of your game. First hearing about this matter, I thought it was due to gross negligence, only to see it for the truth. You did your best, but met your true adversary. This is good. I ask for Patriarch's punishment. No, your failure is the greatest punishment for you. You're not the wisest after all. Bailey Yutian grinned, a man who only knew success will be excited at meeting his match, only to feel crushed in the end, having lost his confidence as being the best. It is the greatest blow to any man of great talent, that to his pride. There's no need to punish you, not when you're already punishing yourself. Bailey Jingwei shook and gnashed his teeth in shame. Bailey Yutian continued, you should thank the heavens for giving you an opponent. If you were like me, undefeated all your life and only looking at the heavens and dismissing anything around you, you'll come to understand the meaning of loneliness. Such excellence will always be accompanied by solitude. Maybe it's heaven's punishment for me, for I'm too strong. Show off. Everyone's faces twitched at Invincible Sword's overblown hubris. No matter how I hear it, it sounds like you're tooting your horn. We get it, you're at the top of the world compared to us in martial arts, but could you keep it down a little? You're seriously asking for it. Then again, no one will try and give it to you either. At the very least make a bit of effort and think of our feelings, please. The 9 Sword Kings were men of status and pride, though now cut to the quick by this guy's bragging sighing, they shook their heads, feeling like ants in front of such a monster. However, they would never let their hearts speak. Ever Bailey Jingwei bowed convinced, I shall take Patriarch's advice to heart and will strive to fight him next time and win. Also, I have one more thing to report that may brighten Patriarch's mood. What is it? Northern Land's best in Sea Bright sect, also the strongest in their land, Ouyang Lingtian, has been gravely wounded from fighting the North Sea's sea demon, and the land is weakened. They have no leader now, and it's the best moment to strike. Very few people there could make use of the Heaven Sealing Sword's power, with no one better at it than Ouyang Lingtian. This way we invade the North Sea's outback and take the divine sword. Bailey Yutian's eyes shone and shouted with joy, the sea demon of the North Sea is ruthless. I once fought him myself, since no man could best me, but it would have been so much worse if I had become weakened in the northern lands. What if someone took advantage and killed me? The greatest shame is dying at a nobody's hands. That's why I had yet to truly experience the sea demon's skills. It seems now that the demon is quite amazing. Going to northern lands might give me another chance to fight him, ha ha ha. Bailey Yutian laughed, but Bailey Jingsha shook his hand. Patriarch is going into enemy territory by himself. That's too dangerous. What if they join forces? No matter, because they'll never get the chance, humph. Bailey Jingwei was practically basking in victory by now. This way, in our war with the Four Lands, the main battlefield will be on the northern lands. It also happens that Shangguan clan took the sword northbound. We'll snatch that one as well. Chapter 976, Devil Mountain Again. Chapter 976, Devil Mountain Again. Proofreader, Papatonks. Senior Uncle, did something happen lately? Why are so many experts of our sects going for Double Dragon Manor? Isn't it obvious? Only something huge could warrant such actions. For an urgent gathering to be held by calling every expert of the sect, it means something happened at the borders of our land. Western lands will no longer be peaceful now, awaiting to be plunged into a sea of blood. Will something happen to us? With us being the head of the superior 3 sects, Ultimate Clarity sect, we would be standing right in front of it. Humph, what does a disciple know? We may be somewhat known in the Western lands, but we're nothing beyond it, to the other lands. Once disaster strikes, the bigger the sect, the higher the body count. It's all up to the heavens above now. That cruel? On a clear sky, with the sun's twilight glow basking unimpeded on the tranquil land, and the murmur of creeks teasing one's hearing, a man and a youth were hovering in the air with a constant frown, investigating the disaster about to follow. The two sighed. A piercing shriek rang out, with the sky dimming, birds scrambling away, and a whirlwind causing havoc through the area as a humongous shadow with 3 heads and wings covered the sky. The sudden huge surge of power sent all the beasts shivering in their dens, prostrating before it like its eternal servants. The man and youth squinted and panicked, heart stuck in their throat. The youth felt so much dread he was about to wet himself, clutching tight to his only lifeline, the man, and crying for his life. Senior uncle, what was that thing? It has such horrible power. Ninth level spiritual beast, the 3-headed crow. The old man stammered in fear and the youth gulped down hard. Senior uncle, can you take on such a beast? The hell I can. The 9th level spiritual beast is a monarch among beasts. It'll be hard for even dozens of peak Genesis experts to get close, let alone me, in the 5th layer. I'll only get killed. Be quiet and let it pass. Don't piss it off. Wiping the sweat off his brow, the old man grabbed the youth's hand, not budging an inch, afraid the slightest movement might irk the shadow passing over and turn them into fertilizer. But then the humongous beast stopped on top of them, leaving a gust of strong winds to seep into their very bones. Gulping loudly, the youth looked devastated and saw the old man shivering. Senior uncle, why did it stop? Did it find us? Will it eat us alive? Stop panicking. Maybe it's taking a rest. Yes, that's it. The old man's face twitched. A 9th level spiritual beast is a king and never needs to hunt, having the spiritual beasts under it feeding it. Something's off about this 9th level spiritual beast, coming out in broad daylight. Did something happen that caught its attention? Anyway, we should be fine as long as we don't disturb it. Senior uncle, is this why the Double Dragon Manor has called for a land-wide meeting? I hope not, or not even 100 peak Genesis experts will be enough to be considered this thing's appetizer. The old man's face shook at the youth's wild guess. Beast and man are quite harmonious. Just why do we have to go out killing each other? Love, that's what the world is missing. I second that. I hope the big bird will also have senior uncle's capacity for love. The youth bobbed his head in fear beneath the humongous shadow. One man and one youth stood frozen from fear, only staring at the thing above with ardent wishes that it would just go away, though time showed it had no such plans to cater to their whims. With a cold voice coming from up above, "Are you two from Ultimate Clarity Sect? It can talk." The youth gasped, "Senior uncle, can a spiritual beast at the 9th level gain human speech?" The old man was quite perplexed. Such high-level beasts are a rarity. It's unclear if they do speak, but then again, I never heard any rumors about spiritual beasts that could. Hey you, it's not the spiritual beast talking but me. The voice sounded again, this time clearly from somewhere on its back. A tiny dot popped from the middle head of the bird, looking faintly human in shape. Could you please tell me if you're from Ultimate Clarity Sect or not? The two were floored, their mouths twitching, and too shocked to reply. There's someone riding a 9th level spiritual beast. What kind of ungodly expert could restrain such a mighty beast? It alone can take on dozens of Genesis experts, a literal king of beast. The two were out of it for ages, making the guy up top have a wry smile at their shock. If you keep silent any longer, I'll take you for corpses, and have my spiritual beast eat you. No, 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 please don't do that, sir. We are from Ultimate Clarity Sect indeed. How may we help you, sir? The two waved frantically at him to stop, scared out of their minds. While sweating buckets the man continued, "Could you tell me if this is Ultimate Clarity Sect's domain, or do I still have ways to go?" Why are you going there? The old man craned his head up with a shuddering heart. Has my sect done something to you, sir? Why would you bring such a ferocious beast to Ultimate Clarity Sect? The man laughed. That's not it, I have nothing against your sect. On the contrary, having some friends instead, like Yi Lin, Wu Qingqiu, and more. You know them. This spiritual beast is only my ride. But if you guys don't tell me, then something is brewing here and I'll have to dispense with the pleasantries. First have you for snacks, then destroy your sect, and lastly... Wait, sir. Please calm down. We'll tell you. The old man was scared to death as he hurried to cup his hands. To be honest, we are on our way there, but it will take 10 days with my speed to reach the sect. While with Sir's spiritual beast's uncanny speed, an hour will do. One of the crow's heads turned to its middle head and said, "Sir, let us go on." The sun's twilight rays shone the back of the three-headed crow and revealed the face of its passenger. Looking at young Sanzi next to him, Zhuofan nodded and said, "Thank you. I have once been to your great sect, but it has been a short event and I have forgotten the way since then. Let us meet again someday, ha ha ha." Zhuofan signaled and the crow flapped its wings. It really talks. The youth pointed a shivering finger at the beast with a gaping mouth. The old man was too stunned to react. It was his first time hearing spiritual beasts speak. Zhuofan chuckled on the bird's back, shouting, "Yep, that last part wasn't me but the spiritual beast, ha ha ha. Wait, sir. Would it be possible to tell the two of us of your noble reason for visiting our sect?" The old man cupped his hands again and stopped Zhuofan from leaving. "Well, he did show me the way and has no clue who I am. If by some misfortune I had ill will, getting his sect in trouble, he would be crushed. What will Double Dragon Manor's name become in Western lands when he comes to them for justice?" Getting his worry, Zhuofan's eyes lit up and said, "There have been some vile men hurting one of our fellow disciples and sect leader destroyed 5 sects in his rage. Now that the world has stirred again, the people of Devil Mountain will kick up a storm, ha ha ha." The three-headed crow vanished with its 2 passengers, leaving behind violent whirlwinds, howling like the demons of the underworld. The man and youth were shaking in the savage winds, coughing and looking at the destruction around with shock. Holy hell. One flap of a 9th-level spiritual beast's wings is so brutal that the world is in ruins. Looking at the devastation, it looked like the end of days. As the youth stared dumbfounded and muttered, the old man was stunned as well, mulling over Zhuofan's words. Does he mean that another disciple of Devil Mountain has come out? "Senior uncle, what's that about Devil Mountain?" the youth asked the frowning old man, who said, "Disciple, haven't you heard of the 5 sects coming to ruin 2 years ago?" "You mean that was Devil Mountain?" With a shaking brow, the old man sighed. Because of the fights between the sects, a prominent disciple fell victim. No one knew he was actually part of the mysterious sect, Devil Mountain. Thus, the sect master, Overlord 9 Serenities, came himself to avenge his death by purging 5 sects and left behind his ungodly power that shook the land. Not even Double Dragon Manor could offend him. Yet after only 2 years, this mystery sect has now appeared again, sending its disciple into the world. And he actually rode a 9th-level spiritual beast. They have learned their lesson, I see. As for us, this embodies ill news and turmoil. The youth was overwhelmed as he nodded out of reflex. A 9th-level spiritual beast is quite flashy. Devil Mountain is like a tyrant, but where is it? I'd like to be their disciple. What did you say? Nothing, just thinking out loud, ha ha ha. Chapter 977, A Shrew's Pep Talk. Chapter 977, A Shrew's Pep Talk. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom tilde. There was this space where golden flames licked every inch, with heat turned so high you'd bake, and the constant crackling sounded as if the earth itself was cooked. Bolts of purple lightning flashed all around, briefly interrupted by the appearance of a 100-meter large bird. It released violent flashes at the dangerous golden flames, erasing them in a terrifying explosion. But as the golden flames around vanished, what stood in their place was a 300-meter dragon, towering like a mountain with its huge eye showing pride. Whoosh tilde. The purple bird landed, then it turned into a 7-year-old girl, looking curiously at the large creature. Dragon ancestor, is today's training over? That was fast. Ha ha ha, it is, since we have guests. The dragon's rumbling laughter sounded, then one sharp talon swept the air. The air ripped and showed a bright sun on the other side and a mild wind rustling the trees around a creek, but also a very familiar man. He entered into this space and smiled. Dragon ancestor sure is amazing. I just came and you already noticed. Father. The adorable girl lit up and jumped in the man's arms joyfully. The man staggered, but hugged the girl back with laughter. Chiawa, it's been so long. I see you had been doing great in here. Father, did you come for me? Chiawa's eyes sparkled with childish hope. Zhuofan rubbed her head with sorrow, shaking his head. It's not up to me when you can leave. Dragon ancestor has the last say. He will let you go once he believes you have the strength to hold your own in the big world outside. Dragon ancestor, can I go with father? I've learned all you've taught me, Qiao swished her head around to the huge dragon with a puppy look. These 2 years away from Zhuofan had been like ages to her, and she had missed her father dearly. Dragon ancestor stared hard at Zhuofan instead. Kid, it can't be you came all this way just to catch up. What happened? Dragon ancestor is amazing yet again. I just can't hide anything from your discerning eye. Zhuofan showed a trace of sorrow, then he flicked his hand and young Sanzi's feeble body appeared. Qiao saw Jiyu Santong so weary and cried, "What happened to brother?" Chilin. Dragon ancestor saw young Sanzi for the first time, but one look was enough to recognize his origins. Tell me what happened. Zhuofan sighed and nodded with a heavy look as he retold the events he went through the last couple of years, finishing with, I didn't know the sacred weapons had such power over sacred beasts. It's my mistake. Now that I know where heaven sealing Cao is, Kuanping said that with U2's seal on young Sanzi's soul and body, it will keep him stable until I find Cao to save him. Oh, Kuanping isn't wrong about that. Heaven sealing Cao can handle this. Dragon ancestor nodded and his eyes shone. His huge claw shot forth and golden flames fell on young Sanzi's body like stars. On his main acupoints, dragon ancestor placed the claw over young Sanzi and let the golden flames cover him, letting its power seep into him. Young Sanzi began to show a golden glow this time, covering him completely, and the child's cheeks looked a healthier pink. Dragon ancestor sighed, the little Chilin will be fine for a while. Take him to Cao, but you need to exercise extreme caution around that guy. He hates humans with a passion. When you do finally meet him, you won't even get the chance to speak before the old bastard would splatter you. The young Chilin will be left for dead and you'll become a bloody stain under his palm. He's still wild and can't speak. No, he just doesn't trust human words. Dragon ancestor sighed, he lost one of his eyes to a human and healing it proved difficult. This is why he sees humans as bitter enemies, making him go mad. Zhuofan's eyes shook. A human took his eye? Who? Sword Sovereign. Dragon ancestor let out a long sigh. You must be fast to explain your purpose, or maybe just throw little Chilin over without even talking. I don't think you'll even have time to get even one word out before you become his meal. Zhuofan was stunned and gave a hard nod with a grim look. Sacred beasts were the strongest in this world, needing but an instant to kill anyone even if sealed in the mortal domain. With Cao killing any human he saw, talking would be pointless. It dawned on him just how risky his search had now become. Qiao picked up on the dangers around this task and said, Dragon ancestor, then I can just go with father and help here. Don't argue. It's too dangerous this time. Anything could happen going against a crazed sacred beast. Young Sanzi is bad enough, I can't have you hurt as well. Zhuofan refused on the spot. Dragon ancestor actually took Qiao's side. This time she can go, maybe she can really help you in this. She is a fledgling sacred beast and that old Cao might give you some time on account of her, enough to state your purpose. And Qiao is strong enough to help you out as well, while also turning this trip into a learning experience for her. Qiao skipped with glee and Zhuofan gave a weak nod. After a long pause he knew Dragon ancestor had put a lot of work in Qiao and was not just about to give her up. What was the point of the last 2 years of training anyway? Dragon ancestor must be convinced she could go out. And if he thought so, then Zhuofan had no reason to doubt the old dragon's judgment. Zhuofan reached out his hand, his tone as earnest as he knew how. Senior dragon ancestor, this is a serious matter. Could you spare some assistance for this noble cause? What's with you? Could you possibly give me, say, 10 more dragon breath pills? Blinking his big purdy eyes, Zhuofan begged without qualms, facing that lunatic, I'll need further assistance. Facing a sacred beast without dragon ancestors' much-needed support will wring my little life dry from these feeble bones. I ask dragon ancestor to think of the end goal and give me all the help you can. If not 10, 5 will do just as fine. Dragon ancestor's big eye twitched, giving a wry smile. Kid, funny you should mention the end goal, when you used one of my dragon breath pill on that nobody sect in the mortal domain. Did you forget how each of them is an all-out attack from me? With me stuck in the mortal domain and unable to recover my energy, you think I can pop out dragon breath pills like candy? Those 3 were the limit of my reserves. Yet you, rotten good for nothing actually. Oh fine, I get it. Zhuofan gave a dismissive wave and grinned, I know you're stuck here, but think of young Sanzi's future. Is Senior that cold to the child's fate? And even if you are, you should at least value him for being on the Sacred Beast team in the final battle. He's clearly a valuable asset. Are you just going to let him pass on? Humph, Kuanping is so treacherous, aware of the danger Cao posed but never mentioned it. Yet even so, he still had a 9th level spiritual beast come with me to help on this journey. While you go on and on about how he sold you guys out, but won't that make you worse than him since you aren't giving one measly help? Zhuo Fan gave him a scornful look, making the dragon ancestor snap at him in annoyance. You say I'm worse than him? Humph, so he got the all-beast mountain range yet only sent some 9th level spiritual beast. In here, I'm the only one left or I would have had an army go with you. Bragging much. Actions speak louder than words. Zhuo Fan taunted, groaning inside. Dragon ancestor gnashed his fangs and spewed out 10 golden balls the size of a hand. He then started wheezing. Kid, don't ever say I didn't help you. These small dragon breath pills are all that's left and you'll have to make do. They can't handle the old monster, but you can still use them to clear your path. This is all I can do to help, Humph. Chapter 978, Full Support. Chapter 978, Full Support. Proofreader, Papatonks. Thank you so much, Dragon Ancestor. I've gone overboard just now. Looking at those now weary eyes, Zhuo Fan expressed his gratitude and turned to Chaoa. Take the 10 small dragon breath pills and take care of yourself. Zhuo Fan placed young Sanzi in his ring and walked for the exit. Chaoa bobbed her cute head and placed the golden fireballs in her own ring before following after her dad. Dragon Ancestor shook as he watched Zhuo Fan's smug figure. The kid cheated me out of those 10 dragon breath pills, though not for himself but for Chaoa. What happened to the little Chiline has served as a hard lesson. He really does see those beasts as his son and daughter. A human. Cao, did you ever think that a human would care so much for a spiritual beast? Arg. Zhuo Fan suddenly felt his left eye flicker with the black thunder flame and held it in pain as it bled farther. What's wrong? Chaoa cried in concern. Zhuo Fan shook his head, but the dragon ancestor knew. Kid, try to use that eye less. Father's eye. Chaoa looked at Dragon Ancestor puzzled. Dragon Ancestor, what's wrong with father's eye? The dragon stared at Zhuo Fan, who needed a bit of time before recovering. He wiped the blood from his eye and forced a smile. Thank you, Dragon Ancestor, for your care. I'm fine. Fine. Dragon Ancestor scoffed. You know exactly how fine it is, better than me. The danger that I poses isn't just to your opponents. I'm certain you noticed from the start. The apocalyptic thunderflame eye's greatest difference from Heavenly Sovereign's purple lightning golden eye isn't its great power, but volatility. You think the fusion of 4 sacred beast powers is that easy to handle? Keep playing with fire and you'll only get burned. Zhuo Fan's eyes shook, but then put on a stoic look. This eye saved me and young Sanzi. If next time it will burn me, I'll be sure to drag the enemy down with me. Grinning, Zhuo Fan pulled Chaoa's hand and left the space. To the world outside, Dragon Ancestor remained behind with a speechless look. The demonic cultivator brat actually knows the value of sacrifice. He looks more and more like 9 serenities. Is it the cultivation method or the inheritance, or maybe? Zhuo Fan rushed towards the North Sea with his daughter, while the other 3 lands got Northern Lands' call for help. The Central Area's empire was on the move at Double Dragon Manor. The 9 sects of Western Lands had gathered at Heaven-reaching Pavilion, all sporting heavy looks. This time's meeting was a complete shuffle from the one 2 years ago, with 5 sects laid to waste. New powers came out of the woodwork to fill the gap. Despite being weaker, they had the support of Double Dragon Manor to speed up their growth. One in particular among these new up-and-comers was quite eye-catching with its constant expansion of power. The Luo Alliance, hailing from the Tianyu Empire. The head of power in this faction was the top clan in Tianyu, Luo clan. No one had any inkling how on earth this no-name clan even got to experience such unprecedented growth. Not even Double Dragon Manor could explain it. In just 2 short years, it went from the previous top lower 3 sect power to being a middle 3 sect in strength. It simply dwarfed those other new factions that didn't even have a third of a lower 3 sect strength. It was the brightest star in the whole of Western Lands, and that was just the start. What made the Luo alliance so incredible and worthy of everyone's respect was its sudden rise being completely different from the Swordstar Empire's imperial family's reign. What was similar was how they were not like sects, only focused on cultivation and ignoring the people around. The Luo alliance and the Swordstar Empire were similar in how they were made up of people from all walks of life, from farmers to officials. At its core was a military clan, leading troops to gain new lands. The alliance had all grounds covered with the help of its generals and strategists, covering up both the power and the governing aspects, much like a small empire. An empire that was growing by the day. It actually got so good when it came to military matters that the Western lands' military aspects had the Luo alliance in charge of them. Some even believed that if not for the Swordstar Empire having the entire central area in its grasp and threatening the other four lands, the Luo alliance's mild and nurturing environment would lead it to become just another behemoth. Alas, IFS had no place in this world. The Swordstar Empire was the strongest, Barn one, drawing the fledgling Luo alliance into becoming a member of the ever-growing resistance against their onslaught, and making its future uncertain. As with all things, only the first would go down in history, while the second would be forever swallowed by the forgotten ages. In many instances, there was only one victor, with the second plagued with mediocrity. It would either surpass the first or forever be in his shadow. This painted the Luo clan's awkward situation. It had the potential to become a second Swordstar Empire, but not the time. One needed time, fate and luck. Zhuo Fan had laid the groundwork for them to build on, but not even he could fight the world's nature. The timing to hold a land for itself had passed, and now they had to wait for the next. The people had gathered in a narrow room, with Luo Yunhai, the alliance leader, flanked by Zhuge Changfeng and Leng Wuchang. As he frowned in thought at everyone, the exalted double dragons had taken the main seats with heavy looks, holding a jade slip and pensive. Exalted Heiran began at last. People, I have called for you today, elders, venerables, sect leaders and clan leaders, to discuss a very sensitive and important topic. Swordstar Empire is on the move. What? Everyone tense at the grave news, throwing the room in chaos from their loud attempts at finding more from the ones next to them. Only Luo Yunhai's team remained firm and silent, more like find nothing. These sect's decrepit fools have no idea what it means to have someone stab you in the back. They did not have the calmness required by war. Eyeing them coldly, Leng Wuchang and Zhuge Changfeng shook their heads. Ahem. Exalted by my cleared his voice and said, I have good news and bad news. The good news, Eastern Land's Shangguan clan head has succeeded in retrieving the soaring sword from the traitorous Shangguan Feiyun. The bad news, not long ago, the strongest in Northern Lands had fought with the North Sea demon and suffered grave injuries. Swordstar Empires capitalized on this and is now marching on Northern Lands to plunder the heaven-sealing divine sword. The Seabright sect is calling for help from everywhere, hoping to unite against the Central Area's assault. Exalted, who are they sending in this time for the Northern Lands to be so desperate to ask for help? One man asked. Exalted Heiran's eyes grew dark. 16 people have entered Northern Lands. The one leading the juniors is Swordstar's crown prince, to temper himself, while Invincible Sword leads the other. Bailey Yutian. SSS tilde. Everyone gasped from shock. The monster comes out himself. No wonder Northern Lands are in panic. Exalted Heiran sighed. That's the least of our problems. Bailey Yutian isn't alone, having with him 5 sword kings of the Bailey clan. Oh, right, you must have only heard of this title used in Swordstar Empire but don't know their power. Then here it is. Our strongest man, Danqing Shun, is now the dragon-cleaving sword king of the central area. He's a sword king. Yes. In other words, every sword king is on Danqing Shun's level at least. There are 8 more beside him that are defending the central area, and above them stand Invincible Sword, Bailey Yutian. Exalted Heiran's eyes shook and gnashed his teeth. I never even realized how Swordstar Empire has gotten so strong. Bailey Yutian aside, now the Empire has grown so strong it will make even the Four Lands Alliance experience heavy losses in a war. Everyone started and paled. How did one even begin to fight that? And their Western Lands had just lost 5 sects 2 years ago, becoming the weakest area. They would suffer even more in such a war. Only Luo Yunhai's eyes shone and cupped his hands. Exalted, what are your thoughts regarding Northern Land's plea? The Exalted gave him a long look and nodded inside. The Luo clan is amazing indeed to have that kid come from them. All the other sect elders were looking scared for their lives at such grave news, while only the Luo clan was firm, thinking of the next step, a true military clan. Chapter 979, Lucky Charm. Chapter 979, Lucky Charm. Proofreader, Papatonks. Luo clan head, after we finish the meeting, us two will take half of Double Dragon Manor's experts along with Yi Lin and the other outstanding disciples, to help Northern Lands and stop Invincible Sword's savage power from lighting the whole area on fire. Exalted Heiran spoke after a pause. Luo Yunhai pondered and then shook his head. Double Dragon Manor is the cornerstone of Western Lands' power. Taking half of that will leave it an empty shell. The odds are high for the Swordstar Empire to use this to his advantage by luring out our forces. Hear, hear, Exalted, please don't go. We can't just give up our own home just for the Northern Lands people. One elder jumped to his feet and cupped his hands. A Hellion Flame elder Luo Yuhai did not let the Exalted speak, continuing, but not going isn't an option either. After they take the Heaven Sealing Sword, they'll fix their eyes on us. How long do you think we'll last? What's worse, by not answering the call for help will make the Four-Land Alliance moot, with neither believing the other. Won't that also fall in the enemy's plan? The elder deflated as he said, Luo clan head, you've been talking all this time, but where are you going with this? We can't save but must save. Are you just running your mouth? Not at all. Lung Wuchang smiled. I ask that elder understands, these aren't mere ramblings, but clan head speculations of the situation. Only through analysis of the matter at hand can we take the right course of action. And how we act isn't our clan head's call, but the Exalted. My clan head is only giving advice, ha ha ha. The man's face twitched, having just gotten served, but anger got the best of him, evident by the forceful tone. There's no end to shrewd men from the Luo clan I see, knowing how to weave words. Then I won't spend my time with you. Please, we're simply stating facts, ha ha ha. Lung Wuchang spoke. Exalted Heiran gave him a sharp look, then his firm voice echoed, it's true, I almost forgot how Luo clan has many sharp minds. I would like to ask your counsel about such a complicated problem. I dare presume you to be the two of Luo Alliance's three sages, Lung Wuchang and Zhuge Changfeng, Sir Leng and Steward Zhuge. Exalted, you honor us. The two stood and bowed with wide smiles. Exalted by my nodded, going by your judgment, what do you two think we should do next? They shared a smile and Zhuge Changfeng took the lead to explain, Exalted, our clan head has been more than clear. By ignoring the Northern Lands' plea, our safety will be short-lived, followed by losing everyone's respect. On the other hand, jumping to its rescue will invite disaster. Danger will come to the Western Lands regardless, sooner or later. I could only defer to Exalted's decision. Zhuge Changfeng hadn't been a prime minister for nothing. His speech was flawless. He was getting one abundantly clear point across. We're here to dish advice. You're the one calling the shots, especially since both paths are fraught with danger. Don't come to us to settle your problems. We've already given you an early reminder, but you wouldn't listen. Steward Zhuge, your reputation precedes you, ha ha ha. Exalted read between the lines and chuckled, he's still hanging it over us. Sigh, just why are we making the call? This would absolve the Luo clan of any responsibility for when everything went south. Double Dragon Manor just lost a scapegoat, ha ha ha. Now I see how the tiny clan experienced exponential growth. Not even the gatekeeper is average. Sighing, the two faced the problem once more, now with a little more clarity. By assisting Northern Lands, their own home would be left empty, ripe for the taking. But that was just a short-term loss, while the alliance would stay strong. While ignoring Northern Lands' plea was the knee-jerk reaction, giving them a short respite of safety while losing the trust of the other lands, making the next time they fought the central area that much harder. Exalted's eyes shone, having come to a decision, we go to Northern Lands' rescue. I shall leave our home's safety in everyone's hands, especially the Luo Alliance and their skilled military conduct. You are to be vigilant against the central area and take full responsibility and authority. Exalted, we will. Luo Yunhai cupped his hands. Double Dragon Manor had made its decision, or to be more particular about it, it had been made since the start. They only called this meeting to get them all along with it, lest someone got any bright ideas and screwed everything up. The two had yet to leave as an aged hand was raised. Exalted Sirs, I wish to report something. What? Exalted Hayran spoke. Your ultimate clarity sect's elder Shu, right? What's so urgent that you need to tell us? The elder stood up, revealing him to be the same man that had met with Zhuofan on his trip to Ultimate Clarity Sect. Looking hesitant, the old man frowned as he muttered, Exalted Sirs, something of great importance must be shared with you and everyone else. I ask that you refrain from testing everyone you meet in your journeys, lest you invite disaster. What are you yapping about, you old coot? Spit it out already. The other seated men started getting annoyed with his drawling. The elder sighed and said something that had everyone's eyes bugged out. A disciple of Devil Mountain has appeared again. SSS tilde. A unanimous gasp resounded throughout the room, with everyone freezing on their spots, more panicked than even hearing of Invincible Sword and the 9 Sword Kings 2 years ago. The Western lands had been quaking with the news of a one Overlord 9 Serenity's power. Now Devil Mountain had sent another of their disciples into the world, and they couldn't have picked a worse time. 2 hearts racing in their chests, trying to gulp down their anxiety. They, along with Exalted, would really like to avoid having to meet that dreaded old freak again, even more so than Invincible Sword. Old coot. Are you certain? Don't scare us now. With all wiping their ever-soaking brows, some in particular were getting panicky. These were all people who liked causing a scene. They were mavericks through and through, but circumstances called for them to bend a knee and be nice for a change, lest they would like to feel the wrath and destruction that got 5 sects wiped off the face of this world on their very skin. They had no concept of turning the other cheek, not when they enjoyed striking first. The only ones that had their blood run cold weren't stronger and nice folks, but those worse than them. It was safe to say Devil Mountain was such an abomination, a pit of demons that would destroy them and then some. At the mere sight of any of their disciples last time Zhuofan's display had the sect stirring at Double Dragon Gathering, making the Overlord 9 Serenities come out to wreck 5 sects. Now that another disciple showed up, what were they supposed to do? While utterly confused, fear dominated among these men. Exalted Hayran snapped at the elder, speak clearly and in detail, man. Gulping hard, the man nodded and presented his full report. Everyone was rendered speechless once he finished. Oh hell, the guy's even riding a 9th level. Yep, he's from Devil Mountain all right. Only that weird place has such freaks. It's also clear Overlord 9 Serenities learned his lesson last time and sent a freaky spiritual beast to safeguard his disciples. Western lands sects had better tuck their tails, or else. Exalted Hayran cleared his voice and mumbled, By my and I will be leaving in a few days. The rest of you need to behave while we're gone. Screw you. You're leaving awfully fast now that you know Devil Mountain is out again. You just can't wait to save Northern lands from Invincible Sword. At least you can fight him, while Overlord 9 Serenities is impossible to even touch. Those scheming old coots. The Exalted got only dirty looks from the rest also. We're taking Ching Cheng as well. As a core disciple, it's good for her to learn about the world. Ha ha ha, Exalted by my shouted with a dry laugh. To hell with you. You old geezers are taking even the lucky charm with you. But what about us? Everyone's faces twitched, with the whole of Western lands knowing that Devil Mountain was only ever nice with the widow Chu Ching Cheng with her along. On the off chance they stepped on Devil Mountain's toes, they were safe behind her. Under her shield of love, these 2 old coots would be mighty relaxed, earning everyone else's ire, of course. At a crater of a volcano in the southern lands, a girl was holding a jade slip while looking around. She handed the slip to a man with soaked eyebrows and said, Brother, Northern lands is calling for help. Bring me the decimating sword. You're not even asking for details. Our 4 lands alliance is a promise set in stone. There's no need to doubt it. The large man spoke calmly as he left. Murong Shuer watched his back with a smile and turned her bright eyes northbound. You just came back and now you're leaving. A scarlet sword whirled through a heavy snowstorm, with 3 old men surrounding it and making hand signs. Shangguan Feixiong rushed over nervously. It's still sealed. I don't know what that boy did to it, but not even us 3 together can't unseal its sword spirit. Blast it, I knew he gave up the sword too easily. He screwed us over. Shangguan Feixiong raged. Damn you, Jiu Yifan. What damn use do I have for this useless thing after you sealed its spirit? How am I supposed to fight invincible sword now? Once I get my hands on you, I'll tear you to pieces. Shangguan Feixiong gnashed his teeth with Shangguan Qingyang sighing nearby, her eyes filled with longing. She had no idea Zhuo Fan was on a mad dash to the cold north as well. Chapter 980, Northern Lands. Chapter 980, Northern Lands. Proofreader, Papatonks. Northern Lands, the northest area among the five, had 80% of it composed of a huge sea, battered by ice and snow all year round. A world of bitter cold. This harsh environment led to few sects or cultivating clans due to the sparse resources, including spirit mines. What this land had that no other did, however, was the wondrous and many miraculous ingredients found behind those savage waves. This made it all the worthwhile for humans to consider this harsh region their home, filled with the prospects of unearthing the sea's next great miracle. The results proved to be of great satisfaction to them as well, as with how rare the baubles found on the seabed were. The Northern Lands became the main supplier to the world's rarest items. What topped them all was the North Sea gel coming out of the watery abyss at some point and hailed as a wonder cure for anything and every known ailment. It was worth fighting and even dying for. The only problem was, a sea demon was guarding it, making getting it all the more difficult and deadly. With this strong sea demon's sudden appearance, their access to the sea was cut off, making it dangerous to even access the usual mining or hunting fishing spots out at sea. This spelled disaster for the Northern Lands, especially how barren it was to begin with. They were left to watch the glittering jewels behind a tempered glass, and with a buffed guard in front of it for every venture into the sea would exact a terrible price whenever the sea demon appeared, making it a miracle if even a tenth survived. For the good of all the cultivators in Northern Lands, Sea Bright Sect's strongest, Ouyang Lingtian, had not long ago taken the greatest treasure of Northern Lands, the heaven-sealing divine sword, to challenge the savage sea demon and settle things. Once and for all, the hero everyone worshipped ended up not even able to see the sea demon's face as the demon flung him back and gravely wounded him in just one clash. The people were already rejoicing about their returned access to wealth, but then left dumbstruck at the outcome. The sea demon was beyond anyone's comprehension, even dispensing with the strongest of the Northern Lands like one does a child. The sea demon didn't even have to come out of the mist, taunting and ridiculing the insignificance of humans. Everyone paled at its words, suddenly losing all interest in the sea's riches. Sadly, when it rains, it pours. No one knew who the bastard was that leaked how their strongest man got hurt, but Central Area's Swordstar Empire heard it loud and clear, rejoicing by sending their own men over to steal their sword as thanks in the form of a team led personally by none other than Invincible Sword. This news sent the whole land into panic and fear. They didn't even have the chance to prepare, as 3 months ago, Invincible Sword's team mowed down any resistance and marched deep into the Northern Lands' hinterlands. The people were now desperate as the strongest and most ruthless man in the world had barged into the heart of their home, his cold blade hanging dangerously close to their heads. The entire Northern Lands was in a state of constant anxiety for another 3 months from the real danger Invincible Sword's team posed. Yet the strongest man did nothing outrageous and seemed to have vanished. The unknown was far scarier now, since they did not know where he could be hiding, in their own home no less, ready to pounce on them when they least expected it. Fell upon the cold and bitter land as another layer of ice to add to the people's misery, making them shiver without stop. This, however, proved to be of no concern to a certain someone, not one bit. Who? Tilda. Zhuo Fan's breath steamed as he smiled. Chower, we're finally in Northern Lands. Now we just have to get to the North Sea's shore. I wonder how far it is. But father, why couldn't we just keep riding that big bird? It's going to take ages to reach the shore now. He was holding the hand of a 7-year-old adorable girl, though she was frowning at him. Zhuo Fan sighed. Chower, you don't know human nature. Northern Lands are now wound tighter than a violin, scared of their own shadow. Fear can lead to insanity, and riding the 3-headed crow would be too eye-catching, painting a target on our backs. We have no chance fighting an angry mob on our tail and would only delay our journey. Remember this well, discretion is the better side of valor. Going in blindly will only make things worse and waste time. Especially with you kids being so fickle, we'll never hear the end of it. Chower brow shook, her confused gaze never leaving him. Zhuo Fan shook his head with a chuckle. I must have gotten silly. Young Sanzi has been around humans for so many years, yet even he had yet to grasp the human's way of life. Xiao just left the safety of home, so how could she know the intricacies of humanity? One step at a time. Easing a breath, Zhuofan continued to hold a confused Xiao as he walked towards the city stop. Who are you and what is your purpose in Seabright City? They were most unwelcomed by a big guard at the gate, so deadly serious he even let his soul harmony stage aura out. By all accounts, Zhuofan ought to be ignored with his radiant stage cultivation and Xiao's power under tight wrap adorned with his demonic treasures. Yet for some reasons, these guards were quite earnest in their duties, not leaving anything to chance, or more like fear drove them up the walls so high they would jump at the slightest rustle. They were all tense that they would see even a bug as a threat in disguise. Zhuofan took out a golden card from his ring, the ones only most honored clients of Serene Shores Trading could have. I'm a merchant with my daughter, here to do business. You're. The big guard's eyes shook in recognition, then he said to the others, I know this man, he's from Serene Shores Trading. I will escort him to handle his business while you stay here and watch anything that moves. Make sure no spy from the central area gets in. The other men nodded then ignored Zhuofan while the big guard immediately showed the way with no more questions on the way. The guard spoke to Zhuofan, Sir, please follow me. I shall take you to our base. Did you guys infiltrate this city? How come even the gate defense? Zhuofan teased the man side. Business can never break from politics. The company spread its influence to every domain and worked from the shadows just in case. But then the company's base had a major incident and all branches began to use all their assets at the young master's call, tying everyone together. I'm the lowest worker and have been told to show anyone holding that card to the base. I don't even know the other base members or other valued clients. But I'm sure someone will talk to you there. Zhuofan squinted and nodded. Serene Shores Trading's reach really is deep in the Five Lands. Old Wu had been smart, already paving their escape if anything went wrong. I gotta say, I won big time by using the oblivious second young master to make all of this for my personal use. With all the places in Northern Lands under tight guard, walking around would have been that much harder without this company's help. Now I'm like a fish in water, haha. Zhuofan grinned to himself. The big man had brought them to a local store, quite run down, lacking the glory and polish a big company should have. Zhuofan knew that his new contact with Serene Shores Trading was here. The broken store was a mere front shopkeeper. You got a customer. Walking inside the 10 square meters shop, the only display was the counter with some average goods while behind was a wall with an old door. Next to it stood a thin old man, looking washed up. The big man gave him a look then left. The old man's eyes shone and stared at Zhuofan grinning. Zhuofan pulled Xiao over to the old man. He sized up the two newcomers then barely spoke. We were once as glorious as the heavens, now fallen into hell. How may we remedy our plight and once again brave the endless skies? I'll carve a path through mountains of flesh and blood and lead us out the gates of hell, laughing in the face of death. Follow me and we'll fight our way back to our peak. Through a sea of blood and mountain of corpses, I'll carve a path out the gates of hell, laughing in the face of death, until the day we once again grasp the heavens. Zhuofan spoke slowly. The old man nodded with a sigh. I can only hope. Right this way, sir. The old man opened the door behind Xiao. Wait here. Telling his daughter to stay, Zhuofan entered the darkness behind the door. Chapter 981, Change of Character. Chapter 981, Change of Character. Proofreader, Papatonks. The dark corridor had no end as Zhuofan walked deeper and deeper. Only after a long time did he notice a glimmer of lamplight arriving there. After more walking, he found 15 people bowing and a table at the side with an oil lamp giving off a poor yellow light. Zhuofan said, You all know Northern Lands better than I do. I want to see the North Sea's shore. What is your solution? Sir, can see that ever since Invincible Sword barged into Northern Lands, the sects are on edge. The guard is very tight everywhere and making it so hardly anyone can move around. And even if there are some who go, they are thoroughly questioned. Any disturbance that might occur would spell disaster. One youth bowed to Zhuofan and reported, to avoid such troubles, one must be part of a few special groups. One is made up of disciples, elders, and venerables of Northern Lands' 5 great sects. who can come and go at will as long as their aura matches the signature on their token. Another is made of 3 great merchants in these lands that focus on war preparations. They have 3 specific trading routes to use and dispatch goods to every sect, having earned their trust and thus exempt from any questioning. Zhuo Fan frowned in thought. Then what did you prepare for me? Sir, we are indeed among those merchants, but to have Sir form an identity for cover is too hard. It's much easier to fiddle with the commercial line sending reports. The man grinned and showed a token. None know that one of the 3 great merchants of northern lands, the Qian clan, is in fact a Serene Shores trading pawn manipulated from the shadows. It's to prevent the 2 lands from engaging in war, while also removing the populace's hostility and facilitating trade to a greater extent. Now that the Serene Shores trading hidden operatives have begun to move, the Qian clan has become our front. So can use the cover of Qian clan steward to move about. This here is the token of the Qian clan. Sir needs just place a trace of soul inside. Zhuo Fan looked at it then said, Serene Shores Trading's roots run deep. I see. You sure came prepared. Ha ha ha, sir, peace is there to prepare for war. And to have our big clients attended to, we need to have assurances. The old chairman had seen these times coming and had arranged for countermeasures. Because Bailey Jingwei had acted with such speed, it allowed our company to deal with it. The man sighed and cupped his hands. Sir, we will have a supply transport ready 5 days from now to the North Sea. All the sects along the way will inspect the convoy. And while the token helps, every inspection will compare it with a report they have on the transport from the Qian clan to verify your identity. As such, I will have to ask that you give us a name so we can make you a true member of the Qian clan in northern lands. Zhuo Fan frowned as he pondered, with all the lands going against the central area, maybe even Shangguan clan and Western lands men will show up. It's best I avoid the usual names. And since it's the Qian clan, then I'll take on their name. Qian Fan, no, Fan? Smiley face, first Fan is from his name, while the second means annoying, vexing. Qian is money. The man's brow shook and chuckled, Sir is truly refined, treating money like dirt. No one will ever dislike Qian Fan, ha ha ha. The others laughed along. Zhuo Fan nodded, true, sometimes more money means more trouble, ha ha ha. Chower, still inside the paw shop, had waited for so long and was bored to death, looking around the place though there wasn't anything particularly of interest to the average man. While Chower, who was seeing the world for the first time, found everything a curiosity. Chower lit up as she stared at a purple mask of an eagle, finding it familiar and interesting. She was a bird as well. Thus the eagle mask struck her fancy. Her hands reached out for it out of her control, but then another dainty hand grabbed it first. Shopkeeper, I want this one. Chower flinched and followed the mask as it was taken by a fair young lady looking it over. That's mine. Chower didn't know what to say, just that the mask was something she was fond of and now it felt like someone stole it from her. The woman raised an eyebrow and turned in the child's direction and big adorable eyes greeted her. Little girl, just because you said it, it's yours. Do you have money for it? What is money? So no then, he. Seeing the child so confused, the woman had a wide smile as she flourishly took out 10 sacred stones on the table and teased, I'm buying it. It's mine now. Chower, still confused, looked at the stones then at the mask with longing and hope. Chower had no clue what those were, having just come out into the world, but the shopkeeper did all too well. Using 10 sacred stones over some boring old mask is such a show-off. The average sect disciple, even venerable at that, would never swagger to such an extent. Those who spent money like water were the imperial family. But with the might of the sects in northern lands, the imperial families were controlled like it was done in western lands. Throwing away sacred stones was the common trend, but one tended to give sacred stones a second thought. And just like the other 2 lands, there were moneybags and wastrels everywhere. But with northern lands on lockdown, who'd be dumb enough to come all the way here to waste their money? As for its 3 allies, their teams had settled on the North Sea's shore and certainly not here. That could only mean this person was from the Swordstar Empire. Gnashing his teeth, the old man felt rage having guessed her identity. But then he sighed, letting all the frustration seep out and make way for calmness. Miss, don't you think it's disgraceful to fight with a child over a simple mask? What's it to you? I like fighting, humph. Jutting out her chin, the woman taunted with a raised eyebrow. I'm paying anyway and it's only natural it's mine. Don't tell me that even 10 sacred stones aren't enough for a measly mask. The old man shook his head and straightened his back. This mask is made of the plumage of a first-level spiritual beast, scarlet beak-eagle, valued at. Don't start me with the price. How much could some first-level spiritual beast's feathers be worth anyway? The woman warned. The old man shook his head. 30 spirit stones. Miss, 10 sacred stones is beyond excessive. More for you then. Take it as a reward. The woman huffed and held her head high as she snickered at Chower. Girlie, I've never lost a fight in my life, hey. Chower frowned, wiggled her cute nose and stuck out her lip. It only worked to drive the woman's joy higher, pinching those little cheeks. Little baby, once I'm done with it, I'll give it to you, if we ever meet again. If not, oh, why not come with me? Miss, are you now a slaver? The old man mocked. You're just too pig-headed. Not everything in the world can be done with stubbornness alone just because you want them only to throw them away later when bored. A truly cherished item will never be thrown away. And I don't feel like selling my items to someone who can't even value them. Take back your sacred stones and leave the mask. I'm giving it to the child. The old man put on a cold face as he pushed away the sacred stones. Chower perked up. Taking the mask, this is mine. He gave it to me. The woman was faster in getting to the mask first, as her hand darted ahead of Chower's small hand. She then turned a dark look to the old man with eyes shining with murder. Money for goods, that's how it's always been. Never has there been anyone who could take stuff from me. Old fool, do you have a death wish? Always you say, humph. More like throwing money for something that caught your eye only to throw it away when you find it boring. The old man met her glare and jeered. I believe if it had a soul it would never choose to go with you, miss. It would rather have nothing to do with the likes of you. The woman's piercing glare never left the old man. There's something else you're hinting at. Just who are you? Chapter 982, Frigid Rain Sword King. Chapter 982, Frigid Rain Sword King. Proofreader, Papatonks. A seller who had his heart broken when master threw him away. The old man lamented then derided, Miss, besides buying goods, there's still the matter of will to lead to a smooth trade. I, however, am unwilling to sell it to you no matter how much money you give me. So just leave it and go. The woman's face fell while Chower was getting anxious. Let me have it. He gave it to me and won't sell it to you. Yeah, he won't sell it. What a shame. What I want, I buy, even if he doesn't want to. With cold bloodthirst shining in her eyes and a sinister smile, she released her power to pin the old man on the wall. The woman's hand oozed sword energy, her tone deadly. Old fool, I'm no dealer and certainly not here to bargain. I don't care who you are, but you're going to pay for defying me, humph. The woman flicked her hand and a sword flew out. The old man couldn't even blink in the face of such mighty power. Stuck there on the wall, he knew this was going to happen from the start. Choosing now to welcome the death he knew would come, he had been ever loyal to Serene Shores Trading. To voice the wrong on the chairman, he dared to spit in the other's face, and now he was bold enough to give up his life for the bond between master and servant. He had let go of everything and was ready to pass on. Stop. A shout came from the dark corridor, followed by a calm voice. Miss, you can kill all you want, but try to do it outside Sea Bright City, lest you'd want to have all eyes on all of us. The woman smirked, looking at the dark corridor's entrance with mockery. You think I care? Miss doesn't care about all but one man's opinion. Zhuo Fan walked out of the shadows, his tone flat. The man doesn't want Miss to make trouble or it will earn his ire. And over what? A shabby mask. Ha ha ha. The woman's brow shook and winced. Her heart sank and mulled things over before withdrawing her aura. The old man slumped from the wall and gasped for his life. He was ready to die, but anyone alive was happy to have come out of that with his life still staring hard at Zhuo Fan. The woman squinted and clenched her fists as she growled, Who are you? Do you know who I am? I don't. Zhuo Fan shook his head and bowed. I am but a steward of the Qian clan of Northern Lands, Qian Fan. This frail store is in my clan's care and I hope Miss will be forgiving. Ha ha ha. The woman stared hard. Qian clan? One of the 3 great merchants. Yes. Lies. The woman spat. Merchants only care for money, always weighing gains and losses. You think they'd haggle with me over some run-down shop like this? And by the looks of you and your impassive face, you're not just anyone either, to not twitch under my killing intent. There's no way a tiny Qian clan would have someone like you as its steward. Who the hell are you? Zhuo Fan gave a slight bow with a wide smile. Thank you for the praise, miss. As for who I am, there's no need to ask, just how there's no need for me to ask who miss is. In short, I'm of no threat to miss, and if miss doesn't see me as an enemy, we can each go our own way. There's plenty of road for the both of us to never intersect, ha ha ha. But you already know who I am. The woman was confused how someone just popped up that had leverage on her. Who was he? How can I trust you mean no harm to us without declaring who you are? Zhuo Fan shrugged. Do I really know? Ha ha ha, miss, you're jumping the gun here. I only feel like miss shouldn't make a scene, that's all. Miss needn't look into me as well. Being able to tell your identity shows you needn't know any more, that any probing will be fruitless and would only bring more problems than solutions. Is that a threat? A warning? With an insufferable grin plastered on his face, Zhuo Fan's eyes held a sharp glint. If you'd go to Western lands, you'd come to realize the world is vast and that there are people above you still. That no one can avoid certain calamities. Caution is always prized in life, lest the slightest mishap might bring it all down. Growing overconfident helps no one. The woman's frown shook, her eyes bewildered. Western lands. You're that. The woman gasped and grimaced at the sudden realization. Zhuo Fan's mouth curled, playing the mystery card. Miss doesn't need to say it, just know it. It's best we each go our own way and not throw everything into chaos. The woman felt conflicted, but then huffed and left in a rush. Wait. Zhuo Fan held out his hand with a smile. May miss be so kind as to return my daughter's mask? Pausing, the woman shot Qiao a look then scoffed. Your daughter, ha ha ha. Someone as average as you actually has such a pretty and adorable daughter. The heavens must be blind. Ha ha ha, there's nothing strange about it. Her mother takes all the credit. Enough with the smugness. Letting you off is already kind enough on my part. Don't ever think you'll get the stuff that I have my eye on. The woman snorted and refused. Zhuo Fan said, then I don't have a choice. Among practitioners, the more friends the more options you have. Since Miss insists on making a scene, if anything happens and an investigation starts because of you, that man. You say we should go our own way, but you're clearly butting in our own side. It's not us doing it, but you who is provoking it. Zhuo Fan's cold stare was fixed on her. Miss, I am just like you, unable to let go of what catches my eye, even if it's a dime or pin. The same goes for my daughter. What sets us apart, however, is that I have no such thing as the empathy or consciousness holding me back from making trouble over it, unlike Miss here. The woman's face shook and growled as she flicked her hand in rage, throwing the mask at Zhuo Fan. You haven't heard the last of me. The woman left with that threat hanging as she stormed out the door. Zhuo Fan's creepy grin surfaced as he caught it, giving it to the hopeful and happy Qiao by his side. So has such valor to talk that witch into giving up. I am in awe. The old man bowed before Zhuo Fan in gratitude. Zhuo Fan smiled. You know who she is? From the central area. The old man's fading eyes shook as he sighed. Intel says mighty experts have invaded northern lands, 10 imperial princes and invincible sword leading 5 sword kings. Among the 9 sword kings, the only woman is frigid rain sword king, Bali Yuyu. Zhuo Fan nodded. Exactly her. Then how did young master manage to scare her away? Fear of consequences. Zhuo Fan said, she fears one man only, invincible sword Bailey Yutian. They have invaded northern lands yet didn't show themselves because Bailey Yutian demanded it of them to be subtle. All this wait is for the perfect moment to strike. It's safe to say that any disturbance they cause beforehand will earn his wrath. So I figured she was more afraid of him than being pig-headed. That's why I did not fear her at all. The old man mulled his words and nodded. Why then did she return the mask? She could have. Fear again. Zhuo Fan smiled. Bailey Yutian won't take anything short of victory in this operation, but now they have someone butting in their business. Ha ha ha. Whoever brought about this disaster is bound to be subjected to Bailey Yutian's rage. But who could hinder them when they have such power? Have you heard of the matters in Western lands? Zhuo Fan looked aside at him. Your company's intelligence should know that Bailey Jingwei had men looking into me in Western lands and should know of the terrible event. Devil Mountain? Precisely. Zhuo Fan nodded with a glint in his eyes. Devil Mountain is too much of an unknown while showing unprecedented strength. It caused the 9 Sword Kings and even Invincible Sword to be weary. Humans fear the unknown, so I hinted I'm from Devil Mountain. The stronger I appear, the weaker they feel. Since she knew next to nothing of me, she feared doing anything that might cause trouble. Maybe Devil Mountain is nothing, but on the off chance that it is, their plan would be foiled, and who would Invincible Sword take it out on? Ha ha ha, that means any that get Devil Mountain's attention is one poor devil. This is one liability she could not afford to have. Chapter 983, I Wish to Meet. Chapter 983, I Wish to Meet. Proofreader, Papatonks. The old man twirled his beard and took his time running his words through his mind before saying to Zhuo Fan, Sir is truly outstanding, such insight into the enemy after one look. I had no idea what second young master saw in Sir to trust you so, but now I do. Second young master's vision is without equal. Ha ha ha, there's no need for that. You make it sound like he got me on board. Zhuo Fan emphasized on his leading position in all of this. The old man paused, then nodded. Yes, we are your loyal servants, sir. But I do have one doubt. Does Sir come from that Devil Mountain? Devil Mountain. Zhuo Fan's eyes shook as if from fear, but then he showed a smile as he turned to the hopeful old man. Do you believe there's such a thing in the world? Startled, the old man hesitated before shaking his head. It is because I do not know with how wide the world is that I ask Sir to clarify. Truth may become a lie as lies can turn to truth. The absence of something does not disprove or prove its existence. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and laughed to himself. It doesn't matter if such a thing exists, only that the people believe in it. In case it doesn't exist now, nothing stops it from coming into being later, right? Ha ha ha. The old man's face twitched and his eyes widened all of a sudden, looking at Zhuo Fan with even more respect. He gave a deep blow filled with awe. Sir is godlike, setting up such a huge stage, pulling officials, emperors, and beggars alike. But if the name proves to be false, isn't your company's model not to look into people? Let it become real with time. Zhuo Fan grinned. The old man understood and looked grateful their comeback had just received godly help. No, this mystery man's help. Zhuo Fan had given Serene Shores Trading a second chance, only coming by now and then to show them the way, to fight for public opinion. Since he wanted a power that went from corner to corner of the world, he couldn't let everything in second young master's care. Wu Randong was only a guide, while the real leader of the company was a man with talent and vision. Making his name known and showcasing his skills was one of the many steps he had to take to make it so. Walking towards a giddy Chiaowa playing with her new mask, Zhuo Fan left with her. The old man had been bowing all this time, proclaiming his endless respect. The same guard once again popped up as they exited the shop and said with courtesy, Sir, I have arranged a place for you to stay. Please follow me. He led Zhuo Fan and Chiaowa to their room where they cultivated in peace as they waited the 5 days to pass. In a quiet groove, deep and hidden, with not a trace of sunlight gracing the ground, the coldness grew thicker, seeping into one's bones. It was in this freezing place that a dozen or so men sat on the damp ground. Their leader was an old man with sharp eyes and a powerful spirit. The 4 people closest to him were Bailey's 4 Sword Kings. And behind them were 10 youngsters, with the crown prince leading the other princes of the imperial family. They had come along with their patriarch and sword kings to learn on this journey and grow, to continue the legacy of the strongest clan. Whoosh Tilda. A beautiful woman suddenly appeared in their sight, then started flicking her hand in anger and kicking her feet before plopping next to the 4 sword kings with a deep breath to begin mediation. How can you cultivate with such a restless mind? Bailey Yutian spoke, opening his eyes. Yu, what happened? Is there any news from Jingwei? The others looked over as well, with Barley Yulei frowning and chiding Barley Yu. Yu, what's the problem exactly to be so pissed? You're disturbing Patriarch's meditation. Have you found something that bodes ill for us? Forgive me, Patriarch, I didn't mean it. She stood and bowed to Bailey Yutian in fear, watching from the corner of her eye for any movement from him. His face remained impassive, like a tranquil lake. Bailey Yutian stood up at last and spoke without looking at her. Speak first, then you can apologize. You know I hate it the most when people start throwing tantrums like a bunch of children. Don't even act like this again without any reason when I'm around. I won't. Barley Yuyu hurriedly bowed. Per Patriarch's order, I went to check the area and found nothing strange. Prime Minister has yet to move, but… What? On my way back I met someone. Barley Yuyu's tone lowered as she hesitated. Bailey Yulei frowned and interjected. Someone? Who? Does he have something to do with us? What makes you so restless that you can't calm down? He. I only just met him, but he appears to be from Devil Mountain. Devil Mountain? The mystery sect from Western lands? Barley Yuyu was tense as she uttered, only for Bailey Yulei to suddenly cry out. The information we got from Western lands say that Devil Mountain's lord is so strong that may rival Patriarch, and making the Western lands' strongest experts sit back while he destroyed 5 sects without so much as a warning. How can someone from Devil Mountain just appear in Northern lands? Patriarch, we're not only facing the Four Lands Alliance but also this unknown power. Bailey Yutian's features shifted a bit, then he spoke coldly. Yulei, did you just say Devil Mountain's lord can match me? No, never. He can't be up to Patriarch's level, but he is far stronger than a Sword King. Bailey Yulei shuddered when he noticed his leader's focus. He knew practitioners never liked to be compared and rushed to explain. Bailey Yutian chuckled, his eyes cold. Yulei, haven't I already told you? You don't have to walk on pins and needles around me and just say it like it is. According to the people in Western lands, Devil Mountain's lord, Overlord 9 Serenities, has long since outgrown heaven in power. There's no need to be so cautious around me. Being better or lower than me, humph, nothing but wasted words. Have you even seen him? Oh, right, Patriarch. We never saw him and not many from Western lands saw him either. With how the rumors circulate, they must be inflated. Wiping the cold sweat off his brow, Bailey Yulei gave a dry laughter. Patriarch knows not to trust hearsay, not when they get embellished every time they're passed on. Maybe this is Western lands' plan, to intimidate us. Maybe Devil Mountain doesn't even exist, nor is there such an expert. Bailey Yutian nodded. Yes, while such a possibility does exist, there are many who seek fame and fortune. The world does not lack people with insidious minds. This may be the Western lands' plan. Being subtle about creating Devil Mountain out of nothing to scare me and keep the peace for a moment longer. Patriarch is right. But this man of Devil Mountain really exists. Bailey Yulei praised the old man, but then Bailey Yutian switched topics. This means that this isn't a scheme, since the crux of this ineffable mystery is being vague and undecipherable. With the coming of a disciple, that can only mean the Devil Mountain exists. I would like to meet him. Patriarch, you want to meet him? Bailey Yulei cried in shock. Bailey Yutian nodded and his eyes shone. I have never lost once in my long life as cultivator and have been in a bitter search for a worthy opponent. Now that this ephemeral person appeared, I am excited. I hope that before the war starts to see his disciple and test him. That's a good idea, ha ha ha. Bailey Yutian laughed and turned to Barley Yuyu. Yuyu, tell me everything about your meeting with me. I need to assess him. Chapter 984, No Holds Barred. Chapter 984, No Holds Barred. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yes, Patriarch. At his orders, Bailey Yutian bowed at once and recounted everything. Bailey Yutian squinted. Yuyu, you're a peak Genesis stage expert, even with demonic treasures hiding your true cultivation, but the moment you released your bloodthirst, the kid saw through your strength and your identity. Yet despite all that, a third-layer radiant stage pup feared you not, using his persuasive words to retreat, without even the mask. What a rare spirit he has. Humph, I had to listen to Patriarch's warning or I'd have long since removed his head from his shoulder for you. A loss is a loss, no excuses. Bailey Yuyu raised her hands in anger, but Bailey Yutian snapped at her. That man has skill to grasp your weakness and leverage it. It's you at fault for not hiding it well and lost without a doubt. Accept it and not throw a tantrum at me like a teenager. You're a Sword King, so act like one. Bailey Yuyu's face shook as she took a deep breath and bowed deeply. Though the grudge only festered inside her, still Bailey Yutian nodded. Yu, tomorrow you'll go spy on the kid and gauge his reaction. I want to see how Devil Mountain's disciple compares to our Bailey clan's disciples. Spy, that's it? Yes. Bailey Yutian's eyes flashed. And I'll even allow you to kill this time, no holds barred. Barley Yu lit up in excitement. Thank you so much, Patriarch. Let's see that punk be cocky again. But Bailey Yutian barged into her joyous occasion. The only one you're not to target in your killing spree is Devil Mountain's disciple. Barley Yu shuddered. But Patriarch, you first tell me I can kill and now you say not him. Then what? I want to test him, not to kill him. Bailey Yutian took a deep breath, regarding the heavens, like master, like disciple. I want to see just how the Devil Mountain's disciple is compared to our clans. Would he still keep a straight face with a mad witch out for blood hot on his heels? Ha ha ha, this'll make for a great test. Barley Yu's heart twitched. Patriarch, I thought I'm a sword king, you yourself entitled. How come I'm suddenly a mad witch? Show some respect at least. Bailey Yutian didn't give a damn. Grinning to himself, Bailey Yulei frowned. Patriarch, with Yu wreaking havoc in northern lands, it will bring the war closer. Then Jingwei's deployment. It's fine. Bailey Yutian cut him off. Jingwei is the prime minister and values the empire's victory. While I am only out to find a worthy opponent to learn from and understand the world even better to grasp greater strength. Any that stand in my way, even the empire's interests, are to step aside, understand? They all shuddered on the inside and bowed. Yes, Patriarch. With business out of the way, now it's time for personal issues. Pa. Bailey Yutian turned icy once more and snapped his hand as he glared at Barley Yu. A violent and strong force struck her, spun her around 3 times before slamming into the ground with a crunch and bleeding from the mouth. Bailey Yulei started. Patriarch. I asked her to scout, yet she went to a thrift shop. Humph, women are so fickle. Bailey Yutian's tone was as cold as his glare. 1,000 lashes ought to set her straight. Yulei, you'll be enforcing the punishment, then have her go on with her task. Yes. They all bowed without a choice, with Barley Yu not even making a comment. Despite the swollen cheek, Bailey Yutian returned to his seat, with others rushing to do the same. Bailey Yulei sighed and took Barley Yu behind the trees, and sharp cracks split the air. 1,000 lashes later, Bailey Yutian staggered over with sweat marring her features while blood seeped from her lacerated back. She, however, pushed through the pain, gnashing her teeth and bowing to Bailey Yutian before flying to her mission. Bailey Yulei clenched the whip in his hand, sighing as he returned to his seat. 5 days later, the Qian caravan was ready. Zhuo Fan, the fake steward, took the lead of the carriages drawn by 3rd-level spiritual beasts while escorted by 15 guards, the same 15 he saw back in that dark room. With a shout, the spiritual beasts roared and pulled the heavy transports in a mad dash, while the people sat inside where it was warm and there was wine, though something felt off for some reason. They kept feeling a chill creeping up their spine now and then. Looking outside with vigilance, they noticed a cold woman following from behind with an eerie grin that had them shiver. Sir, why does that woman keep staring at us? Pulling Zhuo Fan over to the window, the guard pointed her out. Our transport is secretive in the northern lands, so how come we have a tail? Zhuo Fan smiled. It's fine. Just one of the 9 sword kings, Barley Yu of the central area. Last time we had a bit of a standoff, so now she just came to scare us. The man almost spat blood from fright. Barley Yu? And it doesn't matter if she's tailing us? Bro, you sure have a big heart. The others' faces twitched as they watched Zhuo Fan with shock. Never in their wildest dreams did they think a sword king was on their tail. What made it worse? The new boss doesn't even care. Is this idiocy or valor? Anyone else would have wet their pants hearing a sword king is onto them. Zhuo Fan grinned and rubbed Chao's head. Chao giggled, having caught his look, and mocked. Why are you scared? She'd never touch us anyway, or she'd have done it 5 days ago. Dad got her seething with rage, yet still had her give back my mask. If not then certainly not now, so relax. You had an argument with her back then? Everyone cried out and looked stumped, before bowing in respect. Sir, is truly amazing to have even a sword king back off. We are in awe. Now we know why second young master wanted to follow, sir. Zhuo Fan gave a light wave. Please, you should be thanking Bailey Yutian. It was he who set her restriction so that the 9 sword kings can't move without his say-so. Boom. The sudden explosion coming from behind shook the carriage, rumbled the earth and scared the spiritual beasts. The 3rd-level spiritual beasts went wild at the sudden noise, bucking and throwing the bindings off it. The carriage began to wobble under Zhuofan and the others' feet and showed signs of toppling soon. They burst outside and the sudden view had them in shock. Everywhere they looked, the previously snowy and beautiful painting of nature was now scorched black with holes everywhere. Of the 5 carriage, the last one was nowhere to be seen, not even the 5 3rd-level spiritual beasts pulling it. One could only take a wild guess, from the blackened earth, that they were pulverized in the blast. Everyone's face twitched and the knees softened under them from fright. One turned to Zhuofan and whined, "Sir, didn't you say she wouldn't?" "Yeah, 5 days ago she didn't attack, so why now?" Zhuofan was calm. The old coot had let her loose, it seems. Humph, but to what extent, that is the question. Chapter 985, Testing. Chapter 985, Testing. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh tilde. A cold figure landed just 100 meters from Zhuofan's group with a cold smirk. Everyone turned to jelly at the sight of this vile witch, staggering backward. Only Zhuofan not just stood his ground, but walked closer, with an ineffable smile. "Miss, we meet again. How have you been? Good, I hope." "Humph. Keep your slick words to yourself." Barley Yuyu had a crooked grin, mocking. "Kid, didn't you say I wouldn't touch you? Just watch me. I made sure to destroy your goods and kill your men. Now it's your turn, ha ha ha." Barley Yuyu's cackle chilled the others to the bone, while Zhuofan's smile never faltered, slowly shaking his head as he walked even closer. "Miss, it was I who offended you. The others have nothing to do with this. Why take it out on the innocents instead of me?" "Innocent? Humph, no one around you is innocent." Barley Yuyu huffed, feeling playful. "Since you care so much about them, I'll leave you for last while I wring the life of every last one of them in front of you. It's your fault they will die, their sin for working with you." Zhuofan sighed. "Do you have to? Involving bystanders in another's disputes is never the way. Here I am, right in front of you, so if you're going to kill someone, kill me. At least I will be the first to die before them." "Humph, not everything goes your way. The more you want to sacrifice yourself and ease your crimes, the more I want to save you for last and let them die in front of you, because of you. I'll have regret eat you up inside before I move on to you. This is what you get for pissing me off." Barley Yuyu growled as she glared at Zhuofan, who kept coming closer. "Weren't you from that place? Weren't you tough? Why, can't you even save a few lives?" "It's not that I can't, but that I never considered it." Zhuofan had reached Barley Yuyu at this point, just a meter between them, as his vague smile grew wider. "Miss, did you hurt your face, perchance? That would just not do for a pretty thing like you, miss. You should be using your Yuan Qi to patch it up and not waste time on something as vapid as reaping lives." Zhuofan reached out, going after Barley Yuyu's swollen and red cheek. Barley Yuyu jumped back and shouted, "What do you think you're doing?" "Healing you, miss, since it's too much for you to do it yourself." Zhuofan grinned, his raised hand glowing green and oozing vitality. "Such a scratch means nothing with miscultivation, healed in a blink. But to keep it like this, despite how it looks, I'll have to do it myself so that your leader won't have anything to reproach." Barley Yuyu growled and her brows shook. "Keep your hand to yourself. This is Patriarch's punishment. Only he gets to decide when this is healed, and certainly not you. Am I to assume then that it's also your Patriarch who egged you to attack us? Is Patriarch letting you kill now?" Zhuofan smiled. Barley Yuyu gave a cold smirk. "Damn right, there's nothing holding me back. Your luck has run out. Did Patriarch have you kill me as well?" Zhuofan shouted. Barley Yuyu jerked, needing a moment before sporting a sinister smile. "Right again, kid. Just wait till I kill you. Is that so?" Zhuofan beamed, shaking his head, having gotten his answer. Barley Yuyu covered it well, but the split second in demeanor change was enough to betray the truth. Bailey Yutian did tell her to go on a murder spree, but to an extent, the old coot wants to test me, or better yet, test Devil Mountain's disciples and Overlord 9 Serenities. Ha ha ha, thanks, Devil Mountain, you're finally living up to your fake name by reeling in the strongest in mortal domain. That means that even the 9 Sword Kings will need his explicit approval before touching anyone from Devil Mountain. I must say, the name sure has its uses. Grinning with confidence, Zhuo Fan's eyes shone with insight. Barley Yuyu, the great and revered Sword King, was overcome by a very bad feeling, one laced with fear. Zhuo Fan was too much of an unknown that robbed her of all confidence. Barley Yuyu grew enraged, unable to accept his ridiculing smug smile. What are you smiling at? You don't believe I can kill? Oh, I believe all right. You most certainly have it in you to kill me. That's why I'm here, before you, at your tender mercy. Zhuo Fan gave a dismissive wave and resumed walking towards Barley Yuyu. They were so close now, they could practically touch. Even their breath felt warm on the other. Despite the cold weather, Barley Yuyu flushed red and jumped back again, putting some distance between them and panicking. Just what are you doing? Coming before Miss, ready to be captured and presenting my neck. Zhuo Fan raised a taunting eyebrow. Why, does Miss hate it that I completely understand my powerless situation and accept it? Barley Yuyu's lip shook as she saw Zhuo Fan's bright and insufferable smile. With a red face and blank mind, she was a mighty Sword King from the Central Area's Sword Star Empire. Anyone and everyone, almost, would have to scrape and bow at her feet, worship her even. Then how come someone would be so daring and infringing on her personal space with playful smiles? Barley Yuyu lost her mind, pointing at Zhuo Fan. Stay right there. Don't come any closer. Humph, don't think I'm going to let you off so easily. I'll be sure to torture you and let you have a taste of real horrors as I kill your men, one every day. Who knows when your turn will come as you wallow in despair. Barley Yuyu no longer looked at Zhuo Fan and vanished, only the footprint in snow bore testament that a graceful and vicious woman had been here. Zhuo Fan shook his head and walked back to the others. People, look at the carriages. We're moving on. None moved, too dumbstruck to react. Their eyes were filled with nothing but respect or what's wrong with you? Get to work already. Zhuo Fan frowned and shouted at them. They gave a silly giggle, yet in no rush to do their jobs. Sir, were you just flirting with frigid Rain Sword King? You're so awesome, to even do it with a bloodthirsty witch. Bam! Zhuo Fan smacked them on the spot, cut the senseless chatter. I was only testing her limit. And did you find them? Of course. Zhuo Fan grinned. That broad got free rein from Bailey Yutian to start killing, but the only one who she can't touch is me. I gave her ample reasons and occasions to end me then and there, but she never went for it. While she was leaning on excuses, those weren't her style. With how petty and quick to anger she was back in the store, there's no way she'd gathered the patience necessary to toy with me for so long. So I've nothing to worry about her going after my life and can keep going. The others sighed, relieved. Zhuo Fan blinked at them. That's only valid for me alone. You all aren't included. Why then are you so at ease? Be careful not to get her to waste you. You're wrong there, sir. One guard chuckled in joy. Since she won't touch you, then we'll be safe as long as we stay close to you. That's why from now on we'll eat together, sleep together, and ride together. I hope so won't mind it, hey? Zhuo Fan frowned then nodded. Sharp guy. That's a good plan with a high success rate. Though if we want to get rid of her for good, we need a large ruckus and force the man behind her to come negotiate. It's not good to always be reactive to the other's actions and under constant watch. The man behind her. The men exclaimed, so means to. Zhuo Fan gave a resolute nod with a cold smile. Sooner or later we'll meet the best in the lands. So we'll use this chance to get a feel of him, ha ha ha. Chapter 986, Sun Sea Sect. Chapter 986, Sun Sea Sect. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yuyu lost. The 4 carriages were soon repaired, their beasts tied to them and rushed through the snowstorm. However, unbeknownst to them, invincible sword Bailey Yutian stood upon a peak a kilometer away, witnessing the entire event with a long sigh. The 4 Sword Kings stood behind him with dark looks. Bailey Yutian glanced at them and spoke. Even with the strength of a Sword King, she still lost. Do you know why? The 4 hung their heads, having no reply, their faces showing only deference and respect as they waited for the patriarch to enlighten them. Crown Prince, what do you kids think? Bailey Yutian turned to the 10 youths at the back after some hesitation. Crown Prince immediately bowed. Patriarch, frigid Rain Sword King has stepped forward and has free reign, but in my eyes, she appears to be the one to lose. Just like how Devil Mountain appears to have lost yet didn't. Frigid Rain Sword King was too reliant on raw power and disregarded the mind games one can use, giving the opponent the upper hand and pushing her back by grasping her weakness. The problem with Sword Kings is that they are all brawn and no brains, like they're at the top of the world. They aren't aware that on the battlefield, nothing is black and white, in constant change and complex. You're wrong, Crown Prince. Bailey Yulei interjected before Bailey Yutian could reply. This world is all about survival of the fittest. The strong don't need convoluted plans. Eagles fell their prey in one swoop, tigers catch their quarry in one pounce. There's no room for hesitation. Only mice scurry around unseen for food and sparrows look for seeds with caution. The art of war and all the tactics used in the army are all based on winning against a stronger opponent. While retreat is always advisable against someone beyond your abilities, but all these schemes and tactics show is that the user is weak, uncertain of their own strength. Yu Yu is a sword king, with hardly any in this world to match her. She has no need to think hard if someone would be out to get her through some master plan. Only people like you, Crown Prince, having not reached your full potential, would resort to such sophistry. How can you understand the pride of a sword king, of wielding the power to be on top? The reason why she ended up losing to a kid's slick words is because, Bailey Yulei spoke with disdain and scorn as he chided the young future emperor. It took a long time in his speech to realize he had gone out of line, sweat soaking his brow, and fists clenched. Crown Prince just stared at him with a smile as he dug himself into a hole. Bailey Yutian spoke. What? You don't mean to say that I've been holding you back, do you? Is that why Yu Yu couldn't attack? So that means her loss is my fault. Patriarch, that's not what I mean. Bailey Yulei rushed into a bow, shivering and taking blame. He was only a sword king and had no right to hold the Patriarch accountable for anything. His conceited speech was him running his mouth, letting his overblown pride get the best of him and shift the blame on his boss. He had basically dug his own grave. Crown Prince smiled in ridicule. Thunder Sword King, it seems to me you're not quite at the top, ha ha ha. Bailey Yulei's face twisted in rage as he glared, but that was it, waiting for Patriarch's decision. Quiet, all of you. Bailey Yutian gave an annoying wave, watching Zhuo Fan leave. None of your answers touched on the essence. Be it smarts or brawns, it all comes down to valor, to having the attitude of the strong. Without a brave heart, no amount of cunning and strength matter. Anyone else would have been scared witless by Yu Yu's sword, even affecting those that appeared calm. While the kid fought back and took initiative. Nothing would have come of it if he didn't have courage. Also, I didn't let Yu Yu attack and she really didn't. Humph, damn spineless coward. She won't get far in understanding the Tao, not after she couldn't even muster the nerve to challenge my authority. Having always been looming over her, she has no way forward. Stopped at this level. They all shook, with Bailey Yulei anxiously saying, Patriarch, you're saying disobeying you would have been better? Yes, it would. But she would die then. Bailey Yutian's eyes glinted with coldness. He vanished from his spot, leaving the others confused. What's that supposed to mean, Patriarch? Even if you let us walk our own path, we can't escape your control or we'll be dead. Crown Prince paused and gave a wry smile. Invincible sword is the only one in the world. He flew away after Patriarch, the others even more confused and conflicted. Zhuo Fan's caravan had been marching for 3 days, looking out the window now and then, picking up Barley Yu's cold smile, watching them from afar and giving all but him and his daughter the chills. Sir, the witch keeps following us like a leech. I know you're certain she won't touch you, but who knows if it'll stay like this. One guard asked Zhuo Fan for advice. How is Sir going to solve this crisis? Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and smiled. Nothing to it, since it's almost time. For what? Our first stop of our trading caravan, Sun Sea Sect. He picked his teacup from the radiator and sipped. They all looked clueless. Is Sir planning on hiding there? Nah, can't be. Sun Sea Sect was one of Northern Land's 5 sects, but far beneath even one Sword King. They can never protect us. They were so quick to close their doors when news of 9 Sword Kings came around. There's no way they'll shield a merchant. They couldn't make any sense of his words, but Zhuofan was in no rush to explain, giving an ineffable smile as he looked out the window. In 4 hours, before a snow valley, the 4 carriages halted. Zhuofan and the dozen guards stepped out and bowed to the guard outside the valley. The Qian clan caravan is here. I ask senior of Sun Si sect to let us pass. Here is my clan's token. The guard took out his own token, identical to Zhuofan's, and threw it behind it vanished into thin air. Coming back only 15 minutes later, the space then warped and the valley had an icy road form in the middle. The guard gave Zhuofan a look and nodded. Everyone got in the 4 carriages and entered the strange domain. There was another ripple in the air and the icy road vanished behind them, returning to be a plain snow valley. Whoosh tilde. Barley Yu flashed not far away, glaring haughtily. Humph, want to hide in Sun Si sect, is it? Then I'll be waiting right here. The first to come out will be the first to taste my blade. Let's see you keep your calm then, brat. Zhuofan's carriage just entered and 50 men in the Soul Harmony stage surrounded them with wary looks. The leader was a shifty middle-aged man in white with split mustache to make him look cunning. No need to worry, everyone, just the usual trade caravan. Please present your tokens to us as your identities as Qian clansmen. Oh, Executive Cow, who else would we be? We've been doing this route for many times now, hey. One guard laughed while giving his token to a disciple. Executive Cow nodded. Oh, Guard Wu, I sure recognize you, having been here many times, but it has been tense lately and it doesn't hurt to be cautious. He gave a look to the men around him and started checking the token signatures with the user to see if no rat slipped in. Everything checked out, following Zhuofan's turn as he bowed and presented a jade slip. Executive Cow, here is the caravan roster. I am Qian Fan, Qian clan's steward. Zhuofan gave a weird smirk. Chapter 987, Lamb to the Slaughter. Chapter 987, Lamb to the Slaughter. Proofreader, Papatonks. Frowning, the executive said, Qian Fan? How come I never heard of the Qian clan having someone like you? Haricha, I've always been working out in the field and only recently came back at clan head's orders due to these tense times. Executive Cow, it's natural to not know me. Zhuofan spoke without any inflection in his voice, while also hinting that the executive hands were tied no matter how suspicious he might be. This is my daughter. I didn't feel at peace leaving her alone at home, so I've taken her along. I hope executive doesn't mind if she isn't on the list. Zhuofan called Qiaoa over as a shield, which helped curb Cow's suspicions. What kind of a spy would bring their daughter to work? She'd only get in the way. A shame he had no clue this cute and adorable girl was anything but harmless. Executive Cow nodded. I believe you, but business is business and we must follow protocol in ascertaining every member, ha ha ha. Executive Cow gestured and one of his men brought Zhuofan's token over and whispered in his ear before sending him off. Cow turned from his man to Zhuofan, saying, since coming out of the field, does Sir know about the 5 sects tightening their guard ever since Central Area's operations in our homeland? The names and auras of main figures from major clans have all been included for inspection. In a few minutes we will have confirmation, sir. I only ask for a moment of your time. Executive Cow scanned Zhuofan for the slightest twitch, to find anything that might give him away. Zhuofan was aware of his attempt from the start and Serene Shores Trading made sure everything would check out when they set up his token. He had no doubt in his mind there would be no problems whatsoever. I knew this when I returned. Thank you for your care, Executive Cow. Zhuofan smiled. Executive Cow blinked and gave a dry smile. With all his attempts at getting a rise out of the other coming out false, he was now pretty convinced Zhuofan was who he claimed. Soon, his man was back with an answer and the badge. Executive, the Qian clan list does indeed contain such a steward among them, while the aura checks out as well. Oh, then why wasn't I aware of this? Executive Cow asked. The man continued, Northern Lands has many rare items that the many clans sell to all kinds of regions for a bigger profit by sending their people there. With how dark times are upon us, they all recalled their men and each clan has updated their roster. Over the last few days many clans sent their new list every couple of days, with the Qian clan sending their updated one just 5 days ago. I see, it was just a misunderstanding, ha ha ha. Executive Cow confidently nodded at Zhuofan's identity and smiled. Steward Qian, please don't mind it. It's just a precaution. Zhuofan had no reason to panic, not when everything was foolproof, It's all for the safety of northern lands, ha ha ha. Oh, can now Executive Cow inspect the goods? We still have many drops to make. Sure, not a problem. Executive Cow took a jade slip, placing his trace on it, as a receipt, then took Shuofan's token and then marked it into the same jade slip to mark Chen Fan as the receiver. This worked to solidify Shuofan's new persona, with not just Chen clan vouching for him, but Sun Sea sect as well. Taking this proof with him would make the rest of the journey smooth sailing, with each stop adding their own vouching for his identity and sealing his status in the northern lands while making it all the much easier to go to the North Sea's shore. Northern lands went through such a hassle every single time to root out any central area spy that might get any ideas. Sure, a bit of luck might get one past a checkpoint, but what about the many more that followed? Once you got past all these thorough inspections, without any slip-up, there would hardly be any more resistance for any, even those from the Swordstar Empire. All, however, were oblivious of the Swordstar Empire, never able to take this approach, while the dead Serene Shores trading could easily do it with their connections throughout the lands. This was a faction that was under Shuofan's control. It was bound to become the fifth faction joining this conflict among the lands, without anyone noticing as it lurked and grew from the shadows. With the stamp of approval, Shuofan had the men unload Sun Sea sect's goods, then left with the carriages holed up. A sudden loud voice intervened with their departure. Steward Chen, the goods are off. Executive Cow had an odd look. Why are there half of the usual items? Shuofan put on a pained face and sighed as he pulled the executive over. Executive Cow, I ask that you help a brother out and keep this matter hidden. I'll be sure to give the rest on the return trip. Just what happened? Executive Cow got curious. Shuofan sighed longer this time. Truth be told, the carriage with your great sect's other half of goods got struck down by a Central Area's agent. You met with a Central Area agent? Executive Cow cried out, but Shuofan was fast in covering his mouth with a panicked look. Executive Cow, Brother Cow, keep your voice down. Clan head might get wind that I failed in guarding the goods and he'll skin me. What am I supposed to do? Of the promised goods, only half arrived. Not so loud. Making a shushing gesture, Shuofan spoke fast. I told you, I'll give the rest when I make a round trip. Your sect doesn't need them right now anyway, and you can store them away. Then I'll come back with the rest, and with a little bit extra to repay the favor. Executive Cow frowned hard and shook his head. No, this is too important. The amount is too great and I'll take the fall once it's checked. There's no reason for me to take such an unwarranted risk. Fine, I'll do you one better, but you have to cover for me. Shuofan gnashed his teeth and hesitated before looking pained. That agent is right behind us, meant to target our wares. He first ruined half your goods and having gotten a taste of destruction, he still followed us, biding his time for the perfect chance to destroy some more. So I plan on capturing him. You know as well as I do what a grand achievement a captured enemy spy will look on your record, especially in these dark times. So I'll share the merit with you. We'll both capture him and I'll not only be pardoned for my loss of goods but even rewarded for such a feat. The clan would hail me a hero. Executive Cow pinched his mustache, calculating, will it be that easy to get him? When he ruined our carriage, not even my dozen men could circle him with how fast he moved. Shuofan shook his head with a frown. Executive Cow eased a long breath and cursed, since you can't catch him then don't waste more men over him. Alright, just go. But keep in mind to come back with the rest of the supplies, or I'll take it up with the Chen clan. Hey, you're not capturing him? Of course not, our job is to guard the sect, not catch spies for you. Executive Cow waved impatiently, get going already. The other sect is waiting for your goods. We can't be lax one moment in tense times like these. Be careful on the road. Open up the barrier and let them leave. Yes, sir. Shuofan gave him a long look and shook his head. He went inside a carriage with his men while whining, I say, irking someone is easier than walking. This rotten sect sure is laid back to not even want such a huge achievement. Humph. Executive Cow huffed and put on a straight face like he wasn't there. Once Shuofan's caravan was off, Executive Cow gestured and called for 50 soul harmony experts. You guys will be following the caravan. Capture anyone that is sneaking behind it, and make sure to bring them back alive. Got that? Yes, Executive Cow. The men nodded. Despite their confusion, Zhuo Fan grinned to himself in the carriage. Lighten up. The lambs are out of their pen and straight into the wolf's mouth. Once the witch gets her fill, she'll ignore us. Quiet days await us, boys, ha ha ha. The others gave Zhuo Fan a curious look as he stretched in his seat, looking mighty comfortable. Chapter 988, Sheepies vs. Wolf. Chapter 988, Sheepies vs. Wolf. Proofreader, Papatonks. Passing the first stop, Zhuo Fan's caravan continued through the snowstorm, which covered their heavy tracks as fast as they made them. Though even in this weather, one woman with cruel eyes had no trouble following the carriages even in their mad dash through the white desolation. Rotten punk, let me send you off with a bang, and a gift, easing you of the burden of one more carriage, a couple of spiritual beasts and the extra mouths to feed. Humph. Barley Yu pointed her fingers, readying her sword art with vile intentions. Whoosh. Dozens of men in black landed right in front of her before she could finish the attack. They all regarded her with mockery as they released their mighty auras, showing their obvious intent to take her down. Startled, Barley Yu frowned. And who are you people? You have some nerve blocking my view. Ha ha ha. A tiny central area spy thinks that she can just go around northern lands blowing things up like she wishes. Now she's even asking why. You must be blind as a bat, ha ha ha. A tall and muscled man stepped forward, sticking out his shredded chest and being cocky on the peak soul harmony stage cultivation he showcased as he jeered along his buddies. Brothers, talk. I don't think I've ever seen a dumber spy than her. She just goes wherever, ignoring her surroundings, to make a scene and actually asks who we are. Now isn't that rich? So what do you guys think? Should we educate her better, or? A sword energy was released the next second, running him through. He jerked once and stopped, frozen with bug eyes in disbelief. A stronger wind blew over, making his vision split in two, collapsing on the ground in two pieces. His insides were a charred mess, with all the blood evaporated and his soul pulverized. Senior brother. SSS tilde. The other gasped in fright and shock. They turned to Barley Yu with fear, suddenly feeling sorry for themselves. Who the hell is this wench? Couldn't a dozen soul harmony experts scare her off? Why the discrepancy? And there were 50 men here, yet she just offed the strongest of our brothers. Executive Cow even wants her alive. God damn frickin' piece of garbage, you expect us to capture that? It's a miracle if we survive. Everyone looked pained at the icy Barley Yu, their knees turned to jelly, their minds constantly cursing and only wanting to flee for their lives. This was supposed to be an easy job of spy capturing, so why did it turn into us going to the slaughter? What normal spy out there even has such ridiculous power? Tucking her hair behind her ear, Barley Yu regarded her prey with deadly charm. I gave you the chance to state your names, but you went on with your incessant prattling, boring me of ever wanting to find out. So I think turning you into nameless graves would be a better fit for you, ha ha ha. Whoosh tilde. Barley Yu flicked her hand and a loud boom sounded, submerging the 50-strong soul harmony experts in the snowstorm and then removing them from this earth, leaving behind not even a drop of blood as proof of their existence. Boom tilde. The string of explosions caught up to Zhuo Fan's carriage, shaking it. The guards looked out the window to see where the shakes came from with gawking faces. Sir, just what's happening out there to make such shockwaves? The wolf flipped and had a bonfire for her lambs. Just ignore it and let's go. Leaning on his chair, Zhuo Fan closed his eyes with a weird grin. The others shared a glance, shrugged, and the caravan rumbled forward. While they put this event out of their minds, members of the Sun Sea sect couldn't. More like they had no choice, not with how critical it was. Executive Cow stood before the sect entrance, smug and awfully overconfident in his success. Share merit with a merchant? As if. The moment he heard Zhuo Fan talk about this, his mind was made up on taking the credit of capturing a central area spy all to himself. He never once stopped to think that maybe this was all within Zhuo Fan's expectations, which of course it was. Zhuo Fan had no intent of giving him further info, he only passed on the troubles to this eager scapegoat so perfectly, that if the whole operation went south, there was no one to take the blame other than himself. And by the sound and looks of it, the suffering had only just begun. Executive Cow. A frantic and desperate shout came from a disciple he had just sent, scrambling over to the ever-confident and prideful executive. Executive Cow chuckled and waved dismissively. Did you get him? Ha ha ha, it must be one hell of a fish to get you so excited, ha ha ha. Where is he? That is not, the guy was such a mess, shaking and stuttering in fear. Executive Cow was annoyed. Well, which one is it? Spit it out. Executive Cow, the fish is beyond big, but what? Too big for us to handle. With a bitter look, the guy found it hard to speak. Senior brother and the others, they had the woman surrounded, but when it came time to capture her, she turned out to be so savage as to wipe everyone out. I had been watching from afar, in hiding, before I ran back here. Executive Cow, what do we do now? Executive Cow panicked. Did you say they're all dead? I don't believe it. These are soul harmony experts we're talking about here, with the strongest at the peak even. How can they all just die like that? Wasn't she surrounded by a dozen soul harmony merchants then? She ran off? Executive, might sir have the wrong information? The witch is too strong to be chased away. In fact, we couldn't run away even if we wanted to. The man sobbed. Executive Cow was dumbstruck, but soon it dawned on him, I don't have any way of explaining the loss of 50 soul harmony experts. I won't be getting this great merit either. I can only go find Elder Lee. Yes, he. Executive Cow mumbled while frantically dashing for the sect, his mind unhinged. A wizened old man sat on a couch in a lavish room, Executive Cow at his side. Executive Cow, your greed has made you lose 50 experts. And now that you can't handle the responsibility, you came to me. The old man mocked him, wiping his brow. Executive Cow gave a strained laughter as he bowed. Elder Lee is so sharp. I was only thinking of grabbing a spy and didn't want to bother Elder. Once the spy was captured, of course it was a merit to Elder Lee, thanks to your leadership. I could never take all the credit, ha ha ha. Quite the nice way of putting it, but things have become messy. Are you expecting me to clean up after you? Elder Lee mocked with a sharp glint in his eyes, seeing the bobbing head of Executive Cow. Only a Genesis stage expert can kill 50 soul harmony experts so fast. Guard, summon 50 Genesis stage experts at once and seize this spy, alive. Since there's a spy, we should at least find out what she knows. Yes, sir. Hurried steps sounded outside. Elder Lee turned to Executive Cow. Little cow, you owe me big for this. You know as well as I do how reckless endangerment as well as losing 50 soul harmony experts is punished. I am now sending others to catch her and make up for your losses, saying they died in the line of duty. With such a heavy loss and nothing to show for it, you'll suffer worse than in hell. Thank you so much, Elder Lee, for your help. I will never forget your kindness. Executive Cow bowed and simpered. His mind, however, painted a different image, one of rage. I not only lost a great chance at merit, but even ended up in debt. God damn it. Chen Fan, you call that information? Nothing about it was accurate. Executive Cow was filled with rancor, but squeezed a bright smile instead, a painfully hard one at that. Elder Lee stood next to him, like a parent protecting his child. Alas, any kind of superiority he felt here was about to be squashed, pulverized, and splattered by flubbing, sending sheepies once again to catch the savage wolf. Thump tilde. Heavy footsteps rushed over and barged into the room, the Genesis stage expert having no time for common courtesy as he watched the two men with fear and horror. Elder Lee, this is bad, real bad. The 50 Genesis experts you sent are all dead. What? Elder Lee gasped in shock, his jaw hitting the floor. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,